So, welcome back. Another exciting episode of the Unfiltered Copenhagen podcast. I'm here with Rodolfo.
Hello.
And I'm Ford. And today we're going to talk about what's been going on the past 2 weeks in Copenhagen, I guess, because
We missed last week.
we did miss recording an episode last week.
Why did we miss last week?
We missed last week because I had to play some of a game that just launched a new expansion or league,
What game was that?
Path of Exile.
Okay. And how are you doing in that game?
I got to be like the very best, I'm number 85 in the world in that game right now.
The world.
That's right, on hardcore.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I've been a
But
lot.
I mean, there's still 84 people better than you.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Some of them are already dead though, so they were better than me at the time they died. But
Oh, they don't disappear from the ranking when they die?
no, you keep the rank you were at when you died, but you obviously can't go any further.
But
So you'll eventually get eclipsed.
okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess so.
Like you got to level 95 before everybody else. You were 83 at that point, and then you die.
So you can't use the same username or character name or whatever it is?
You can make another character, but then you start over from one. But yeah, you can't use the exact same character name. Anyways, enough about that, Dolph. It's about Copenhagen.
Well, you...
But that's why we missed last week.
Yeah.
Also, it was the start of my vacation.
The start. How long is your vacation?
It was all week. So
Sounds nice.
I go back in.
I was
Monday.
working.
Yeah.
And I can tell you didn't miss much.
Well, they told me I had 17 vacation days and I got to take them before May.
I know. I have the same. Well, I don't have as many, but I have to. I'm going to have 2 weeks off in April.
So I had to take them, I had to take them at some point. So I took this week off and then I took the week off around Easter in April.
You going to celebrate?
No, I'm not going to
Some
celebrate.
Piñata?
But no.
When do they do piñata? Is it during Easter or?
Oh, at Pinatas?
Yeah.
That's on, I think it's on Cinco de Mayo, the 5th of May.
Okay, well, close enough.
Or maybe they just do pinata at birthdays and shit. I know they do it at birthdays and stuff
But
too.
it's a Mexican thing,
Yeah.
right? Or is it a Latin American thing? Or
To me, it's Mexican because that's like the closest Latin American I know. But I mean, of course, because that's so close to Texas, So, I mean, I knew plenty of people that were from like Venezuela and Colombia and stuff, but it was primarily like Mexican culture dominates the Latin culture in Texas. But
Yeah.
I mean,
did you ever play that?
what, pinata?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
You don't really play it. You just beat the shit out of the thing until candy falls out. There's no game to be played.
Well, it's breaking that shit, right?
Yeah. Basically, what they do is they just hang the pinata up. They put a blindfold on the kid and they give him a big stick. And then they turn him around like 10 times and then they just tell him to whack the
That
thing.
sounds like a recipe
Yeah,
for
yeah.
a disaster.
It basically is because the kid doesn't know exactly where the thing is with the blindfold on. And so there's like a bunch of videos of like parents getting hit in the crotch by the kid like swinging at something.
Is it just one kid at a time?
Yeah, one kid hits the pinata at a time.
Okay.
It's kind of like pin the tail on the donkey.
Yeah, I know. But I was just imagining maybe if it was, I don't know, 4 or 5 kids all hitting the piñata at once.
Yeah.
And if they were all blindfolded, they just start hitting each other as well.
No, you just one at a time.
That makes it slightly less exciting.
But you have a similar tradition here where they used to, on Festilauten, they used to beat a barrel that had a live cat in it.
Yeah, that's true.
That's kind of
It's a bit more violent.
well, I guess, it's a little more, a little more dark. right?
When did they do that? Like, when was last time that they actually did that? With the live cat?
Apparently recently, the police were called out to someplace in Amma for like people actually using
Really?
a cat in a barrel and beating it recently. Yeah, I think there was some animal rights violation or something.
No, no, you think?
Well, yeah, I do think, but I mean, like, seriously, there's some Amma folks doing that shit.
That's
recently.
strange because that's. I mean, I would imagine maybe it's some farmland
Like in
away
Uland,
from here.
like in Uland, or
yeah,
but if,
somewhere in the deep lands of Uland.
but if they did it
Where
out
there's
there,
like 50 people living there and they're all kind of half inbred or something.
Hopefully-
I don't know if that happens in Uland. But,
but if they do it out there, you got to think nobody's calling the cops. They're just drinking another beer and having fun beating the barrel.
yeah, that's true. Beating the cat.
I mean, it's a simpler life on the farm, Dolph.
That reminds me of a friend of mine. And a friend of yours. He just got a cat recently.
Okay.
And he's getting one of those leashes, like the body leashes.
For the
'Cause
cat?
Because he actually wants to go out and walk out the cat
Yeah.
on the street. Is
But-
that normal? I've never seen a
Not
cat
really.
being walked out.
Most cats, you put a leash on them and then you try to get them to go and then you just drag them along the
Oh
ground.
yeah.
because
He's trying to get the cat used to it because the
Yeah.
cat goes kind of.
I think you have to do it from when they're really young, and it has to be a certain type of cat that wants to do that and be very curious and kind of explore. Like cats are naturally curious, but they're curious on their own terms. Like they're not going to go out and run around like a dog and like go look at stuff unless they really want to. And to be honest, they don't normally want to.
Yeah, they kind of just do whatever the fuck they want, right?
Like if we put a leash on Gracie, then she would just lay there and look at us annoyed, like, "What are you doing?" And then if you tried to walk her, you would just have to drag her.
Yeah, but she's a bit too old now. Like if you got her used to that progressively, maybe.
If
maybe
you
it
have
would work.
if you have a Bengal, like one of those really active like Savannah type cats that you need to play with like 10 hours a day, otherwise they'll tear up your apartment, then yeah, you probably could get a leash. But or if you train your cat from when it's really young.
Well, he's gonna try to do it. I'm excited. I've never seen a cat being walked like that.
Yeah, there was a girl I knew in the States that had a cat, and her cat would play fetch. You would throw the ball, and like the cat would go get it and bring it back to you
And
every
bring it
time.
back?
Yeah,
Wow.
it was like almost like a dog.
Nice.
Most cats aren't like that.
No, I
No.
I have somewhat limited experience with cats, but it's enough experience to know that they're definitely not like that.
Yeah,
And yeah, I'm not a big cat person.
no.
No, I like dogs.
But would you own a dog? It's a lot of responsibility to have an animal.
Well, I used to have two when I was younger, or rather, my parents used to have two small dogs just in the apartment.
Yeah, but like nowadays, when you're on your own,
Now it's too much responsibility for me.
yeah, because then you can't go out without realizing, oh, I gotta go feed him,
Yeah,
and
I
take him
need,
out and all that.
It's too much responsibility. I need to.
Yeah,
Basically, I can't just do whatever the fuck I want anymore because I need to always keep in mind that either it needs to be fed or walked, or yeah, I can just leave the country for a week randomly.
yeah,
Too much. I'm not willing to
I agree.
to get that kind of responsibility.
I agree.
So what's happening in Copenhagen for it?
I don't know. Should we go over the?
Yeah, let's just go over the topics.
So we got a few topics here we're going to talk about that happened in the last 2 weeks or so. An altercation ends up with a guy getting his eye gouged out with a bicycle kickstand.
Yeah, I wonder what the fuck happened there.
That was near you, right?
Yeah, it was like 50 meters from where I live.
Did you see the eyeball anywhere? Or
No. I didn't see anything happening, and I think it happened. It probably happened like early in the morning, or rather, like around 4 or 5 a.m. I don't know.
Overnight.
So I was probably asleep at the time.
It's probably two drunk guys arguing over something, or like
Yeah, it's also a street with there's a bunch of
junkies and can
Thai,
collectors.
Thai massage places,
Oh,
and yeah, like legal brothels, so to say.
yeah.
I don't know if it had anything to do with that, but it was on that street where there's a few of them.
Huh.
So yeah, I mean the kind of people who usually are there around that time of the
4 o'clock
night
in the
or in the
morning.
morning.
Probably not
They
your
are-
normal.
yeah.
It's not your normal business professional. You know?
No,
Just-
definitely not.
So what are the 3 types or 4 types of people you might see there at 4 in the morning? You got
Oh.
the can collector that's looking for scraps. The
Not at that time.
no,
No.
really. There's no can collectors looking for scraps around
Well,
there?
at least not during the winter.
Okay. What about
don't think
what
so.
about like alcoholics who are looking for like little last swallows of beer in cans that people have left laying around? Do you have that?
Possibly. I mean,
You said you saw somebody with a needle in their arm quite a few times, right?
Well, yeah, not on that street. That was a bit
Okay.
closer to the central station. But I've seen. I don't think I've ever seen anyone with a needle on their arm. But I've definitely seen more than once someone cooking up something like on a spoon.
Okay, with a spoon out and a
Yeah,
lighter, just
yeah,
sitting there
yeah.
roasting it.
I've definitely seen
Holy shit, man!
seen that more than once. And I mean, it's just what it is, you know. I mean, of course I feel sad for them, but what am I going to do?
Anyways, that's like my worst fear. This guy got an eye gouged out. My grandfather was an eye surgeon, and he would always tell me, Ford, you got to be careful with your eyes. You only get one pair. You know, it's like you would be playing with some stick or whatever. He'd be like, you're gonna put an eye out with that thing. And like, since
That's such a grandpa thing to say.
yeah. So since a young age, I've always just been very mindful when I use the food disposal, like on the If you have a disposal,
Yeah, I know in the
I
States.
guess you don't really have them here, but you have those food disposals in the States where if you have like, I don't know, some food remnants, you just turn it on and it grinds it all up and it goes down the sink. And sometimes, like the perfect configuration of something happens, and those blades in there spinning around at high speed, like kick up like a little piece of something, and it like shoots
Oh,
out at high
wow.
speed. So I was always paranoid, like there was going to be some little rock or seed or something that was going to shoot out of there at like 150 kilometers an hour and hit me in the eye and knock an eyeball out. So I would hold like a plate over the thing as I turned it on.
Oh, wow. Okay,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's some extra level of.
That's like
I've
some
I've 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 thought
final
I've
destination
thought
shit.
about stuff like that. Like if I'm frying bacon or just frying some
Oh
kind of
yeah,
food, you know.
when the oil's popping.
Yeah, when the oil is popping.
Oh yeah. Like I've got a healthy fear of that oil popping because my mom got burned by she was frying some liver at one point.
Mhm.
And you know how with liver when you fry it, you're supposed to like aerate it with a fork, like kind of poke it and put holes in it so
No, I
that
didn't know that.
you're supposed to. Anyways, I think one of the liver pieces or something popped, and a huge chunk of oil like left a burn on her wrist, like on the inside of her wrist, like right where the vein is, that was like 3 or 4 centimeters wide.
Okay,
And it was bad. It was like a 3rd-degree burn. It was really bad.
yeah, that doesn't sound very good.
So I'm also a little worried about like popping oil from frying stuff. I don't like that shit. Or when you have to drop in the frozen stuff into the frying pan and it starts
Oh
crackling.
yeah, no,
Fuck that.
no frozen stuff. You need to be careful with that.
Well, you know what I mean. Like maybe not even frozen. Just anytime you got to put anything that's wet into that frying pan.
Yeah, you don't want to put anything with water on the
No, not too
when you're
much.
frying at a high temperature.
No.
I've fried bacon at least a couple of times, like topless.
Topless.
Yes,
Okay.
and I've quickly realized it was not such a smart idea.
Yeah.
But I've done it and I've learned from it.
Well, don't want to do that. Well, we'll talk about these guys getting this guy getting his eye gouged out. I want to hear a little more about that. What else do we have on the list? The vast majority of Danes want to remain in the EU. Is that
Interesting.
Is that particularly surprising or no?
It is because I don't know exactly when it was, but after I moved here, and that was what 8-9 years ago. There's been at least 1 or 2 how do you call it, census? Like they just ask the people to vote whether they want to stay or to remain.
Yeah.
And the vote has been surprisingly close to
Each time.
50% from what I can remember.
Okay.
And as we know, the Denmark doesn't use the euro.
currency, right? Yeah.
And that's already some kind of I believe there's some kind of pride in there and cultural thing, you know. So
Sure.
I wouldn't be. I was actually surprised when they said the vast majority of Danes.
Okay, we'll look at the numbers then. So, because we'll see what it describes the vast majority as. A Danish boy finds the remains of a German World War II plane in a field, and apparently, according to you, he also found some pieces of the pilot. Maybe.
Yeah, some bones or something like that.
Okay.
It's been there for a long time.
Where was it?
Oh, I don't know. Some town that starts with a B, but I think it was in Sjælland. So it was on this
So it
island.
wasn't necessarily in the country then, or maybe it was a little bit in the country, but at least not in Newland.
No, I think it was somewhat close to Copenhagen.
Okay, that sounds kind of interesting. Did the Germans, I mean, I know the Germans came in and the Danes kind of were very practical, like, here, let's sell you some stuff. Don't destroy everything we have, please.
I don't know exactly how
did that
the whole
work?
thing. I don't know exactly how the whole thing went, but I have heard from friends that the Citadel in Østerport, next to Østerport the station.
Okay.
Well, there's a Citadel there, which is basically where they have. Well, it's something I guess that was where they had the military, and it was surrounded by this. It has this moat and these walls. And so it's like a military compound, and I think they were, again, this might be just rumors, but I heard this from a Dane, so I believe whatever they say, that they were calling it basically impenetrable, like nobody can come in here, until they realized that the Germans were parachuting, and they had a bunch of paratroopers that just
Parachuted in.
parachuted down there, so they skipped all that moat and the walls and everything, and they
Just-
just basically took it very easily.
Bypassed your defenses.
Yeah, completely.
Hmm.
I'm not entirely sure of the accuracy of this story, but that's how I was
Okay,
told.
I was just curious about this World War II plane that was found. If it was something that was like being resupplied here, or like that it was actually actively engaged in some mission. So I guess, maybe some
I don't
historians actually know about that.
Yeah,
But
I don't ask me about that. I don't know. I don't know much about Danish history in general, and definitely not about what happened back then.
no. What else do we have? Post Nord will only make deliveries once a week unless people pay more. Now this is
So nothing is really going to change.
well, but this isn't in place yet, right? It's just an idea, or is it actually already in place?
I do not know. I guess we need to read the article too.
Well, okay, we'll go over that in a
figure
minute. That's interesting because I have some strong feelings about the postal
Everybody
service.
does. Everybody who has tried to receive a package in Denmark has very strong opinions.
Those bastards.
Very few of them are positive opinions.
Those bastards. A record elm pollen count, a bad omen for allergy sufferers. Are you are you an allergy sufferer?
No, for it.
Are you not allergic to anything?
I'm allergic to stupid people.
Okay. Do you ever
But,
you never get like sneezy or have like a sneezing fit?
No,
or
I think
watery eyes and all that shit.
No, not really. I sometimes if I eat either too much or a certain kind of chocolate, I might get some
stomach problems.
No, like more like acne.
Oh, like hives, like your face starts turning red.
Yeah,
That's
well,
hot-
not the
that's-
whole face, but
you-
specific spots. Like I guess if I get a bit of chocolate, like on my chin,
Yeah,
there's probably a high chance that I'll get
pimples.
yeah
in a
just
few
pimple
days.
there. Yes.
Okay, but you don't have an instant reaction where your skin
No.
starts to swell up
No,
and get
no,
red.
no.
Okay,
I don't
that's
have anything
hives.
like that.
Okay, that's hives. Then you just get pimples from the chocolate or something. Okay. Well, I sometimes have some allergies. I don't know what my worst allergy is, but I think last year I had to take some medicine like almost all the time because it was pretty bad. I don't know if it was elm or something else, but
I've never had anything like that.
oh, it sucks, man. There's nothing that feels more miserable than when you just feel like you need to sneeze at all times.
But it's not as bad as nut allergies, right? Like those people that have nut allergies that they really need to take some medicine or they are gonna
Die.
well, maybe that's a bit too drastic. but
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know if nut allergies is so terrible because like you can avoid nuts for the most part. I mean, I know it's used in a lot of food processing plants, so you have to be careful about what you eat and buy and all that.
Yeah, but you can't really avoid the street, I guess.
But if you have allergies and it's just something in the air, like you can't do
Mhm.
shit about that really, other than try to take medicine
Yeah,
or
that's
use
right.
like an air filter, and that doesn't really work that well. So, yeah. Former police chief in hot water over forgotten gun in the toilet at Danish parliament. This is something I
I
have.
love that.
This is something I
love
have a little bit of experience with because I used to carry a gun in the U.S. and
You never forgot it in the toilet, though.
I never forgot it in a toilet. But it is a legitimate problem if you need to take a shit and you have a holster on. You have to do like normally. You drop your pants and then they're kind of around your legs. And in the U.S., you have these toilets where not only can somebody kind of peek through a little slit in the door, they can also look underneath. Like there's about a third of a meter gap on the bottom where you can see the guy's feet.
Yeah.
It's so fucking strange. Like it was
Is
like
that only in the US?
I think so, or at least I know it's definitely everywhere in the U.S. But when I came here, I was like, "Holy shit!" The toilets are like when you go in the toilet that you actually sit down and like take a shit in, you close the door behind you, and like you have your own room. It's private. Well, I mean, in the U.S., it's like a little stall. And then some guy there's always some guy hovering around, he needs to take a shit like yesterday. And there's only 2 stalls and you're in there doing your business. And this guy's out front, just kind of pacing around back and forth. And then eyeing, like looking through the thing. And you're like, hey.
They actually look under the...
Well, you can, they look under, or you can identify, like, some people even go so far as to get a separate pair of shit shoes, like shitting shoes, because what'll happen is, well, some people are like maybe a little embarrassed about it or whatever, so they'll go to, like, I don't care at all. I don't have a pair of shitting shoes, but I remember there was a guy at my old job, and he had a separate pair of shoes. So like everybody knew this guy wore like some black and white Adidas shell toes, and you can tell the same shell toes because they're about a little bit dirty. They're about a year and a half old or whatever, and like those are his shell toes. So if you walk in the bathroom and you see those shell toes under there, you know
it's him.
you know that Wesley's in there taking a big dump. So you might even be outside like, hey Wes, how many minutes you got left? Or you just ask him how long he's gonna be, and you maybe hear Angry Birds in there, going on. Anyways, so some people had shit in shoes to try to prevent like snooping, so that like an hour later, somebody doesn't walk by and say, "Hey, Wes, saw your shoes in there. Did you have a good shit earlier?" Because Americans will like just overshare and talk about way too much shit. And also, there was a guy that when he went in there, we called him the pantsless shitter because he would go in there, and most people just take their pants down and like wrap, they're just around your ankles so you can pull them back up after you're done. He would
just remove the whole.
No, because he worked in some sandals, like he wore some jean shorts, like some jorts and some sandals to work every day. He was a pretty fat guy. And he would go into the toilet, he would kick off his sandals, and he would throw his pants in the corner of the stall. Like you could see underneath the door there, so you saw some jean shorts over there and some sandals on the floor and just his bare legs. So he was just in there, pants off, just butt ass naked, taking a shit in there. And we called him the pantsless shitter.
And you only knew about that because
you can see under
there was
the thing,
that gap underneath the door.
Let me get back to what I was originally saying. So if you have a gun, especially if you're a concealed carrier, nobody can know that you have it because it freaks people out. But in Texas, you can carry it if you have a license to do it, and so I did. But if you need to take a shit, you have to figure out something to do with a gun, because if you put it on the floor with your pants, then somebody's going to see underneath the door that you have a pistol right there, and they're going to probably freak out. And you won't know that they freak out. They're just going to leave and go tell somebody, or like call the cops and be like, hey, there's a guy in the bathroom with a gun. I think he's going to shoot up the whole place, And little do they know you're just a normal fucking guy. So you end up having to like set it on the toilet paper holder, or like figure out you have to figure out somewhere to put it. So,
I'm surprised they didn't have special hooks for guns in Texas.
In Texas. Yeah, I don't know. I think actually there are certain places that do, like certain gun stores do have them because they expect people to carry there. But yeah, so this former police chief in hot water over a forgotten gun in the toilet. A Danish parliament. I mean, that's kind of a big deal, I guess, but I'm sure they just blow it out of proportion. We'll take a look at that article and go over that one. There was another, there's a politician saying that she thinks that I think she's from Venstre, the left, or one of the left-leaning parties, right?
Venstre is right.
Okay, right.
Right-leaning. I know Venstre means left, but it's
okay.
right-leaning.
That's always so confusing to me. It's because Venstre means literally left.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, Venstre. I think it's from Venstre.
Center-right party.
Okay. Well, they're basically still left if you compare it to Texas. So.
Well, everything is left when you compare it to Texas.
Yeah. They think that the people receiving unemployment benefits should help clean the streets, sweep the streets, and clean the streets of trash in Copenhagen.
It's an interesting statement.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly how I feel about that, but
well, I mean, it feels great when you're not the unemployed one sweeping the streets, and then it feels like shit when you are. So I mean, it's always grass is always greener. Hey, yeah, you should do that, and until it's you, and then fuck this rule. All right. Well, we'll take a look at that article. And then I think we had there was an opinion piece, or like an editorial thing. The author, or the original founder of the local.dk, I guess he moved away from Copenhagen after being here at least, 7 years? And he wrote about the 10 things he'll miss most about living in Copenhagen. So we might go over some of those.
Yeah,
I think that's kind of a cool perspective.
I can probably guess at least 5 of them.
Yeah. All right, well, where do you want to start? Should we start with this guy getting his eye gouged out?
The first one, yeah.
How the fuck do you get an eye gouged out?
I mean, somebody picked up how do you call it? The kickstand
oh, yeah.
From a bicycle.
So the Danish word is stuteful, and it means like, I don't know what stute means, but it's like the foot of a bike.
I think it's standing. It's something.
Standing foot.
Well, I don't know if it means standing literally, but I think it's like somewhat related to standing.
Like a stand foot.
So standing
or something.
feet. Standing foot. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, it's the kickstand on a bike for for those of us who aren't familiar with this Danish word. But so I guess presumably somebody broke this thing off and used it as a weapon. I would read all the quotes and stuff in here if the article was in English, but it's
You
not.
can Google Translate it.
Yeah, I'll just translate it.
That's gonna be that's gonna be good.
Well, yeah. So a 27-year-old man lost his eye Friday night in connection with a violent episode in Vesterbro in Copenhagen. Two young men of 18 and 20 years old were incarcerated Saturday for 25 days at a preliminary hearing, which will be held behind closed doors. They're charged with serious violence. Well, yeah, I guess so. The victim was stabbed. One eye was stabbed out with a kickstand from a bicycle, the police chief confirmed. A kickstand is easy to break off one of the many bikes standing around in the street. So I've experienced before that people have used these as weapons.
That's interesting. I didn't realize they would be that easy to
break off.
To break off.
Yeah, they
I never
are,
tried it, but
yeah, they're pretty easy to just because I mean it just held on there by a little bolt. It depends on the type you have. There's some that are a little more secure than others, but honestly, people don't buy the really good shit, and stores don't sell you a bike that has the good shit on there because it's Copenhagen, and they know that A, they're going to make more money if they don't have to put fancy shit on your bike, and B, nobody buys that shit that's fancy because it's going to get stolen anyway. So
just like with the one quick movement, you can
I don't know
break it off.
if that easy, but yeah, you could probably like lean the bike up against something and then just kick the kickstand really hard with your foot, you know, and just snap it off.
Because I mean, if they're in an altercation, I don't know how much time you have to actually remove something like that.
Well, what I'm saying is, I don't know if we don't have many more details. This is about, let's see, police got the notification of the attack around 1 o'clock on Friday night. I mean, they don't really have any other details. But we don't know if there was some sort of vendetta between these people. And, you know, like maybe
they're probably just drunk.
Maybe they were drunk. Maybe they were talking shit. And then two of the guys that got arrested, maybe they left and went to a bike and snapped the thing off and then came back and just stabbed him in the face with it. You know, that's a potential could have happened. Or they could have just broken it off early, looking for trouble, and just kind of attacked the guy out of nowhere for no reason. Maybe the color of his skin, maybe that they just didn't like the way he was looking or whatever. Maybe he said something to him. So they could have had the bike stand before, or they could have been in a big scuffle and kind of been tussling, and then, one of them went for something or just broke off whatever was available. But that's like my worst fucking nightmare, man. What if you lose an eye? Like, you never getting that back, and your life will change forever.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess if you lose one,
but then you don't have it.
You just don't have. You just lose like sense of depth.
Yeah, you have no.
perspective.
Well, but that's pretty fucking important too.
Well, it is, but you can still keep on for the rest of your life relatively normal.
Sure, except for the fact that everybody's going to look at you as a pirate.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, nobody's
you get a glass eye.
Yeah, but a glass eye doesn't track and follow you around. So you got one eye that just never moves. And, it just looks strange. I mean, look, I'm not saying like I'm going to judge anybody, but your first impression of somebody that has either a glass eye or like an eye patch or whatever.
I saw a guy with an eye patch, yes.
You have a question in your mind. How the fuck did that happen? Like you kind of want to ask him, but you kind of don't because,
like a scar, yeah.
It's just like you're immediately drawn to that. Whether that's, and normally I think it's seen as kind of a negative,
maybe,
right?
Maybe I should try one day just to go out.
Just wear an eye patch?
Just go out with an eye patch, and see how many people would actually ask me what happened.
You should see how well or how much it affects your depth perception and dealing with everyday things.
Oh, I know it's
like moving forward and trying to reach for a door handle. Like I know it'll fuck that shit up.
Yeah, I'm sure it's gonna make a lot of things a bit trickier,
a little more clumsy.
But I mean, between losing one eye and losing one hand, I probably would rather lose one eye.
Really?
One eye or one hand?
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
If I had to choose between those two, holy shit! If you lose one hand, there's a lot of stuff you can't do anymore. I can play guitar. Well, maybe I can, but it's clearly not going to be the same if I lose one hand. And if I lose one eye, I mean, maybe I'm going to have some fucked up perspective. Maybe I'll have trouble driving. Or maybe I can't drive. I don't know. But still.
Maybe girls won't date you anymore.
Oh, yeah, because if I had only one hand, they would be all over me, right?
Yeah, maybe. Maybe it'd be like a more...
No, I think I'd rather have... Well, I'd still have one eye.
I don't know. I bet if you asked 10 girls, hey, would you rather date me like if I had only one eye or one hand? Like, which one would be the deal breaker?
I don't think
what they would tell you.
My charisma would overturn all of that for
Do you think so?
Yes.
All right.
I have
Look,
to.
I mean, I'm not saying it would or it wouldn't. I'm just bringing up the question. It's like a philosophical question that you ask 10 girls. Would you rather date a guy that's missing an eye or a guy that's missing a hand, and why?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's also not the way I think about how I make choices in my life. You know,
No,
if I'm more or less
well,
dateable because of it.
well, I mean,
But
of course not.
from
It's just a,
from my own perspective, I feel that I'd rather lose depth.
what about when you're using the computer? Do you think that's going to fuck you up when you have one eye? Like
Maybe.
right now you got two, so you can keep one eye kind of on a tab on on Firefox, and then another eye on like some
Well,
other
but
location.
both eyes are always looking at the same
Yeah.
point
But you
anyway.
have some extra peripheral vision provided.
Yeah, I don't think that's a big problem.
All right.
Maybe if you're a professional gamer, it'll fuck you up a little bit. But
Yeah, maybe. All right. So the moral of the
losing-
story is don't be.
Is there a moral to the story? I don't. think
Yeah,
there's
the
any.
moral of the story is probably just don't get into a fight, and you'll be good.
Well, that could happen just out of nowhere, you know.
Just make it just attack you out of nowhere.
Especially if one of the
Yeah.
guys just attacked the other for no reason whatsoever, we don't know.
Yeah, I wish we had more details. This is again another one of these closed doors fucking prosecuting things. I don't really like how they do that. They just say, "Oh yeah, this criminal event is being held behind closed
What's
doors."
the reason? What's the reason behind that?
Well, I mean, we talked about this on the last podcast that in some situations, like the guy that's being charged with like pedophilia and all that. I mean, of course, they don't say why it's behind closed doors, but I understand like if there's a child as a victim and they're like, they're going to grow up one day and their life could be forever altered by the things that happened
Yeah.
in whatever. Like you probably don't want minors to have their stuff in like a permanent record, open records, So for that reason, I understand. But in this situation, there's an 18 and a 20-year-old arrested, and they attacked a 27-year-old man. Everybody's old enough. Everybody's an adult. It sounds to me like a pretty straightforward type of either a brawl or an attack on an unsuspecting person or like a hate crime or who knows. But it doesn't seem to me to be something that needs to be held behind closed doors. So like, what are they hiding? Or do they just do it for... Was there some gang related stuff, and so they're trying to protect the identity of some people involved so that they don't have gang retaliation?
Do you think that's more common than I would imagine? I guess.
What do you mean, the closed doors thing?
Yeah,
I
'cause
see. I see
we
a lot
already-
of. I see a lot of articles that always say they're being held behind closed doors. Like there's some terrorism ones. I guess I can maybe understand that one, but they never should. They never really say a reason why it's being held like that
Maybe
behind
it's just a
closed doors.
common thing in Denmark. I don't know. At least we were seeing it happen.
But I mean, shit, in the U.S., they have like, they like live stream the trial and everything, Did you ever watch that O.J. Simpson shit, man?
No,
my
I
mom,
didn't.
my
I
mom
didn't.
was
I
like,
couldn't. I can't be bothered. I don't.
my mom like marathon watched that whole O.J. Simpson trial.
Live.
Yeah, she was like tuned in, watching to it every day, like a fucking reality show almost. Well, it is reality. And then they would have like during the breaks, they would have analysts on there bringing in like their legal expert and like, well, what do you think about the defense's position on, did the glove really fit?
It's like a fucking game.
Yeah, well, it was like professional commentary and I mean analysis and everything. And I mean, it's the guy's life at stake and all that. So,
Well, I have to say though that Americans have clearly perfected the art of at least televised entertainment.
Commercializing
Holy
everything.
shit, you guys! It's just. I mean, I guess you have too many advertisements. That's probably the only thing that, at least on public TV, that kind of detracts from the entertainment value. But you guys surely have perfected the art. I don't know how long it took. I don't know if it's because there's Hollywood there and it's just a big, like we've just been, video entertainment has just been you have a long history of video entertainment, but you guys have clearly perfected that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's also kind of a good thing in some situations, but they do over commercialize the shit out of it. It's like coming up next, did O.J. Simpson brutally murder? Well, there's like 10 seconds later, it's like a commercial for Kentucky Fried Chicken. Just
I can't watch American TV. I don't like watching TV in general, but American TV it's terrible.
Yeah, well,
it's terrible.
I don't really watch much TV other than the shit on Netflix with no commercials anyway. So
yeah, I guess HBO or stuff like that would be okay.
Yeah.
But just public TV?
Yeah. Well, not public, but like the broadcast television. That's like it's privately owned stations, but it goes over the public airwaves.
Yeah, exactly. Like
Yeah.
even like the Tonight Show and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
all that
Every
stuff
time I've
is-
seen stuff like that, it's online, or most of the time that I've seen it is
Yeah.
online.
A lot of it's
so
not very
there's
good.
there's no. Well, you still see the breaks. That's the thing. You still see the commercial breaks, and they happen all the fucking time.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I can only imagine if every time that happened, I'd have to wait. I don't know, 2 minutes.
More than 2 minutes.
maybe
Maybe
more, I don't know.
5 minute commercial break or something.
It's crazy.
All right, let's move on. The other one, the vast majority of Danes want to remain in the EU. Let's take a look at this and see what they define
thought-
vast majority as, because that's kind of a strong wording in my mind.
is.
I think
The
I think
vast-
vast majority. I think 70% or more, right, or 80% or more.
I would say at least 70. Yeah.
Yeah.
Vast majority would have to be almost close to 3/4 of the population. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Boy, Copenhagen Post website is loading a little slow. I mean, I've been.
Maybe they don't want you to read the article.
Here we go. Look at that nice image they have.
That's a nice
The
flag.
vast majority of Danes want to remain in the EU, and who can blame them when seeing the financial benefits of the cooperation? Despite the recent turmoil regarding Denmark's Europol exit vote and the Brexit debacle, most Danes would prefer their nation to remain a member state of the EU. A new Gallup survey compiled on behalf of Parliament revealed that just 18% of Danes want Denmark to exit from the
Oh
EU.
wow, that's a small.
So
amount.
82% want to stay.
Yeah, that's much more than I expected.
Okay. Following the election of Donald Trump in the U.S. and the British vote, I think the Danes believe we must have a strong Europe. Eric Christensen, the head of Parliament's European Committee, told Metro Express newspaper. We must stand together in the face of the massive challenges, but it's clear that despite the general positive opinion, many also believe that the EU meddles too much. They're critical and with just cause. As part of the survey, respondents were asked what they wish Denmark's relationship with the EU entailed. Some 16% said they wanted to be members without reservations. 24.8% said they wanted to be members with fewer reservations. 14.7% said they wanted to be members with reservations, and 11.9% wanted to be members with more reservations. So what's this deal about reservations? Is that like what things are required of you?
It's probably
Like using
there
the
are some-
currency? Is that a reservation? Or
I guess so. Yeah, there's just some things that it's like, oh, we want to be members, but we don't want to abide by all the, let's say, laws. It's maybe
Right,
it's not related
right,
to laws, but
right.
it's like we want to have an exception here or there.
Yeah, like
that's my guess.
Yeah, don't ban fläskesteg if it's banned EU wide. Like we still want to be able to eat it here. Okay.
Yeah, if they ban, I don't know, pork in
Well,
elementary school.
Well, speaking of that, there was the new tobacco products directive in the EU, which affected people who use electronic cigarettes. The whole nicotine thing. You can't buy juice from outside the EU, and you can't buy more than a certain quantity and more than a certain strength, which affected us because we use electronic cigarettes, and it made everything more expensive and more difficult to get. And I don't think it really helped anybody, except just maybe politicians and the tobacco companies.
So if we cannot order it from over a certain amount from outside of the EU right now?
You can't order juice with nicotine from outside the EU at all. Yeah, well, technically.
Okay. Yeah, I guess technically that was what I was missing.
Well, what I'm getting at is Customs gets it and they know what it is, then they'll destroy it.
Yeah, will you get a fine?
That I don't know. I mean, I remember we ordered that juice, a lot of juice from Velvet Cloud, and we ordered that we had ordered it before.
I think it was before
the Tobacco Products Directive 2 went into effect. But we also, at the time we ordered it, we weren't even thinking. We weren't like, oh, we better get this order in before it. Like, because we didn't even know. And then suddenly it got seized. And then they sent Ronnie a note saying, hey, like, we're going to hold on to this because we're determining, like, there's currently an ongoing decision about whether it's medicine or not. And then, then they officially signed the Tobacco Products Directive or somehow it went into effect. And then they just sent us the thing saying, yeah, we destroyed your shit. And then they sent us a package of the things that weren't the juice. And so there was like a whole box, and we had to pay like 200 crowns,
for
the import fee. And there was like 4 empty bottles in it.
Yeah.
Completely empty. And then there was like the receipt and all the other shit in there, except no product. So that was kind of sad.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what the reasoning behind that. There's probably some reason that I'm not really.
But that's like an EU-wide reservation, or I guess some sort of agreement that for instance, if it was my vote, I think that Denmark should be part of the EU still. But I would say that they should say fuck that directive because I don't like that one, you know. And so I guess the Danes feel the same way about certain things. Like they don't want to use the currency because there's some pride
Yeah, but
around the
that's a bit
currency
of a
there.
slippery slope, you know? It's like if
Is it?
people, well, if people as in countries, if countries just want to say, well, I don't want to be part of, I want to be part of this because of the money, but I don't want to be part of it I don't want this rule to affect me. You know,
Sure.
it's,
But I mean,
once,
there are differences in certain societies. Like some things are more accepted and allowed and normal than in others, right?
sure, but then you can just basically decide that, oh, I don't want this law or this law.
To
And
apply.
yeah,
Yeah. Well,
it's,
anyways, I don't know. Like, what if you tried to tell the Netherlands about the coffee shops in Amsterdam, like how they should handle their business there and how they should make that.
oh, I mean,
You know what I mean? Like, what if
I
the
think it's
EU
perfectly
pushed some
valid. I just don't know if like what makes the EU the EU is
the members
the
coming up?
union, like
Sure.
the members being united among a common, I guess, set of laws.
Yeah,
mean,
but what I'm saying is, I think there's a common set of laws that kind of applies to everybody, no matter where you are, and that's like don't kill, don't be an asshole, don't murder people, whatever. That's like the core principles. There's some shit like that that's basically in every society over the entirety of time. There's like some core fundamental rules that you just know you don't do, and they're just set in stone. And then there's a bunch of little minor kind of nitpicky rules, like, excuse me, you can't build a new building here closer than 2 meters. And if you build a new building that's going to create shade, then the building that's going to be in the shade must receive, you know, these are like little rules and regulations.
Yeah,
And like, so I think there's some distinction to be made. Like if there's an EU-wide rule, like, hey, you shouldn't, like women should have equal rights or you shouldn't abuse animals. Okay, that's pretty straightforward and understandable. But if there's a rule like, oh, you know, you can't ship a liquid that has more than 18 milligrams per milliliter of nicotine, well, that's kind of like a regulation, like a more nitpicky thing. And so I think that the member states should be allowed to say, well, we've decided that that's not right for us, but we still believe you on the human rights things.
I agree, but what I was saying, I think it's a slippery slope to allow members to just say, I don't like this law, so I'm not going to follow it, or I don't want to follow it. I definitely don't think that a lot of those laws should be EU
Wide.
wide.
They should be local.
It just be like in the States, like you have federal law and then you
state
have
law.
state law.
Yeah.
And a lot of laws are just different from state to state because the states enforce them.
Right.
And I think it should be like that. I definitely don't think that a law like the nicotine import or stuff like that
Should be EU wide.
needs to be EU wide.
I don't think so either.
Now, whether the countries want to impose something like that or not, that's up to them. I just think it's a slippery slope if countries begin choosing to opt out of EU laws because they don't like them, and they are able to get away with it.
Okay, but I mean, maybe they're choosing to opt out of them because the people of that country don't believe in them at all. And so they're kind of, the politicians are forced to say, well, do I do what the people who voted for me and believe in me and want me to do something? Like, do I vote for my constituents? Do I stand up for what they want?
Yeah, but
or do I just bow down to the EU? Because then they're going to.
But then you can argue it on the European Parliament, right? Like that's supposedly how
I guess so.
politics should work,
Yeah,
right?
I guess
because
so.
it's just like saying, okay, let's have some. I don't want to name any specific country, but let's just pick a country now decides, okay, I don't think women should have the same rights, so we're not going to abide by that law. I mean, and we want to not abide by this law because Denmark or whoever else also didn't abide by the nicotine law.
Sure, but at some point, then the members will decide if they should retain their membership. Like, hey, you don't seem to be following a number of the core concepts of what we believe to be required to be a member state, and so we're going to decide that you're no longer a member. And they're probably not going to do that. It's saying, hey, looks like you don't follow the nicotine directive, you're out. But they're
Then
probably
just
going to
get
say,
rid of
hey, they're going to probably say, hey, looks like you don't follow the women's rights thing, so you are out. You're no longer a member of the EU.
Yeah,
so
but then just get rid of the fucking nicotine. Like, yeah,
sure,
I guess
I mean,
it's a silly.
I'm not a politician. I can sit here on the sidelines and say that I basically think most politicians are generally people that start out with good intentions and then be corrupted by either money, which in the U.S. is pretty much every single one of them, just corrupted by money right away, or the power.
Portugal as well.
So I basically tend to think of all politicians as criminals, whether they are or not. That's just been my experience. Every single one of them, self-serving, out for power, out for money, don't care about anybody once they're elected. Just fuck everybody. It's all about me. And maybe it's slightly different in Denmark, but I've just been so fucking, ruined by American politics.
They're so nice here, for they ride their bicycles to the parliament.
Yeah, that's right. And then
they can't be bad people.
I don't know. Anyways, what I'm saying is you also don't know how hard it probably is and how much fucking work it is to try to get something changed.
Oh, I'm sure.
Can you imagine that, like, you and I finally get elected as, like, let's say, in Parliament? We both have a seat on Parliament.
Day of my life.
and we go and we bring to the EU a proposal that we think the Tobacco Products 2 directive is bad and we want to change it or make it less restrictive in certain things. Do you know that could basically then become your fucking life's work and you might still not ever get anything done just because of all the red tape and bureaucratic bullshit and lobbying and all that stuff you have to do? So, I mean, maybe at some point politicians just say, yeah, that sounds good in theory, but it's a lot of fucking work.
Sure,
so
but that's a problem with the system.
You're right. It's a problem with the political system. Once you get too big, everything becomes hard and complicated and annoying to fucking do.
So I just think, the EU should not have as many
little regulations, and they should leave a lot of those decisions to the member states.
At least stuff that is not, let's say human rights or something that doesn't really affect everybody, regardless of the
stuff that's not core tenets or like core values of a modern society, like
like the 10 Commandments.
Well,
of the EU, just like we need the Moses for it. We need the Moses over here.
But you joke. But that's what I was saying. There's those core principles that basically every modern society has kind of abided by. Don't kill people. Don't beat people up. Don't allow equal voting, equal rights, and don't like abuse animals and elderly people and children, and don't discriminate because somebody only has one eye or one hand.
Oh, that comes full circle.
Yeah, it does. See how I did that? It was a nice little tie-in. But okay. Anyways, so Danes, they want to remain in the EU. 80% basically. Some of them have some ideas about more or less reservations, apparently.
Yeah.
I would like to know what reservations that they don't like or what the primary things that they have a problem with.
Yeah, it's not a very developed article.
No.
But to be honest, I really don't want to look up more about it.
No, not right now. Politics is a little boring sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's next?
What's next? A Danish boy finds the remains of a German World War II plane in a field.
That's cool.
Oh, it's on BBC.
Well, yeah, because I chose the link in English.
Danish boy finds remains of a German Messerschmitt in a field. When Klaus Christensen tried to bring his son's history homework to life, he probably wasn't expecting the boy to unearth a buried World War II warplane. Excited TV crews, forensic police, and explosive experts descended on the family's farm in Berkelse, Denmark. Where's Berkelse?
Berkelse, yeah. I don't know. I think it's north. I think it's in Sjælland somewhere. Oh, no. 9400? No, that's not in Sjælland.
Where's that? Oh, it's near Aalborg.
Okay. Well, that's
it is
a bit further away than I expected.
So that's at like the northern edge of Jylland.
Yeah.
Then. So basically, closest to Aalborg is like the closest major city around here, huh? But it's out in the middle of nowhere. Wow.
Yeah, I wonder now why it fell there. If it just ran out of gas, because I don't think there should be any kind of war thing going on in that region.
No, but it could have been coming.
Yeah, just in transit.
Could have been in transit from either Sweden or from Norway. I mean, I know that this channel, like this body of water, I mean, this is the entrance to the Baltic Sea, and that's why like this area has always been very strategic.
Yeah,
like the Kattegat and the Øresund channel and all that, because all traffic that basically wants to get like into into kind of inner Europe and and Russia and all this stuff, it needs to flow through there and
Yeah.
also to escape. So I'd imagine maybe that plane was doing some surveillance or like watching and looking at ships in the channel and seeing like the military movements. Maybe I don't know.
And why did it fall?
And why did it fall? Yeah, that's true. Okay, well let's look at the article and
Do you
see.
think there was a dogfight?
I doubt it, but we'll find out. Um, hmm. Daniel Christensen found the remains of a German Messerschmitt plane and its pilot in an unremarkable field. According to Mr. Christensen, his grandfather once told him that a plane had crashed there in November 1944. He told Danish news station DR, "When my son Daniel was recently given homework about World War II, I jokingly told him to go out and find the plane that's supposed to have crashed out in the field. The father and son joined forces with a metal detector, but never expected to find anything." Mr. Christensen, an agricultural worker, believed the wreckage had been removed years before, but then a telltale beeping on a patch of boggy ground. The pair began digging, but they realized they needed to go deeper. They borrowed an excavator from a neighbor, and around 4 to 6 meters down, the plane's carcass began to reveal itself.
Hashtag just Jutland things.
Yeah, yeah. When your neighbor has an excavator, like you know you're out in the farmland.
Yeah, you're not
Hey.
around Copenhagen.
I mean, but that's some shit that you would do in Texas. You know, like, hey Jasper, you still got that digging machine over there? I got a plane I'm trying to dig up. All right.
Well, they didn't know it was a plane at the time.
Well,
It just
but no, but they did know it was, or they thought it was a plane.
yeah.
Okay. So in the, let's see, their haul included an engine from the ME 109 Messerschmitt, Luftwaffe munitions, and the bones of a crew member who died in the crash. So it was a crash.
Well,
In the first moment, it was not a plane, he told the BBC. It was maybe 2,000 to 5,000 pieces of a plane, and we found a motor, and then suddenly we found parts of bones and parts of the pilot's clothes. And then we found some personal things, books, a wallet with money. Either it was the little Bible or it was Mein Kampf, a book in his pocket. We didn't touch it. We just put it in some bags. A museum is now taking care of it. I think there's a lot of information in those papers. Realizing he had found something extraordinary, the farmer contacted World War II historians and the Danish authorities. He said the field was being used for grass or cattle. His family has worked on the land where the plane was concealed for decades, oblivious to its secrets. We had never seen anything on the surface, not a single bit of metal.
how far did they dig? Did they say
4 to 6 meters.
4 to 6 meters?
Yeah.
So we can kind of, I know it's a big assumption, but that in 60 years or 60, 70 years,
Yeah.
there's going to be like the ground will cover, or erosion and stuff like that will cover something for up to 6 meters.
Maybe, but it was also
Depends on the area as well, and the weather and stuff like that. I
yeah,
realize,
well, I
but-
guess the water. I mean, this is pretty close to the coast, so water could, wash up dirt or something. I don't know if it erodes away or if it actually gets additional material deposited to it over time. Because coastal regions often have things like that, where they basically either are constantly eroding or they're getting constantly added to. And so you have to either go out and drudge the channel or the beaches, or you have to add rocks to make sure that and metal. I forget what the word is for these things, but they basically are like prevent things from eroding away. So I don't know. It could be that. It's also farmland. Maybe they sow the soil and then
yeah, but if
put
they
new
were sowing
fertilizer.
that around there, they would have found the plane before, right?
Yeah, maybe. I don't
just,
know.
oh man, I wonder how many things
It was,
are just
it said it was
buried underneath.
It also
all
said it
these
was
cities.
it said it was a marshy or like wet area. So maybe it was almost like a bit of a swamp or a
Yeah.
bog, and the plane crashed and then sunk down into the ground, as opposed to just kind of sitting there on the ground and then dirt building up around it. I'm pretty sure it's like a wet thing where it sunk down.
I remember a few years ago, there was some news that they were digging around Kongsnutå for some reason. Maybe it's when they started building the metro. I can't remember, but they had found the old gates of the town, because there used to be a gate right there, like at the end of Stol, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
And when Stol comes into Kongsnutå, there used to be an old gate into the city, into or out of the city, and they had basically
So they found the old
found
one.
it again. Yeah,
Hmm.
I think that shit is so interesting. You know, I just wonder how much stuff is buried underneath these cities that we're basically never gonna. Well, I assume never gonna be able to find again because you're not gonna just start excavating in the middle of downtown old city.
Yeah. But this is kind of cool, though. That's got to be really cool for the kid. I mean, your dad tells you, like, there's a plane out there. You're like, I would be thinking, Dad, you're full of shit. But okay, you know, let's go out there and I'll give this a go. And apparently the dad said, what did he say here? Oh, his grandfather, he was telling a lot of stories. Some of them were not true and some of them were true. But this one was true. Maybe I should have listened to him a bit more when he was alive.
Yeah,
Because you know there's like those
those old grandpa
guy
stories. Yeah.
Oh, when I was your age, I had to walk uphill both ways in the snow, you know, and just whatever. You kids got it so easy now. That's cool though.
It is pretty cool. So, do you know the range that the metal detector will detect stuff? Because 6 meters, that's quite a bit.
Yeah, well, I think it depends on a lot of factors, right? It depends on how small the metal deposit is, right? Because it works on magnetic fields. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, probably the land type.
Yeah, the type of earth.
The consistency.
So maybe if it's like muddy and kind of watery, it's not so dense, it might work better.
Mm-hmm.
Also, if it's a big chunk of metal or, you know, a certain type of metal that has a strong magnetic type polarity, then it's probably better. And then also it depends on the metal detector you have, like how powerful it is, because I think there's some like metal detector enthusiasts who have like some serious gear. Because I remember in the U.S. there was people that would just go like on the beaches and different stuff and just sweep and find things and then go sell them at the pawn shop and all that. You never know what you're gonna find if you have one of those things. So
I think it's cool. It's like some kind of modern day silly Indiana Jones character, you know?
Yeah.
Let's just go around and
so this guy
find old
apparently
stuff.
has a metal detector and like a neighbor with an excavator. So he just is like the perfect guy to go find that plane. Okay, how about the next one?
Oh,
and this is like, I'm going to have to clear my throat here. Hold on.
That was nicely done.
Yeah. Well, I had to because I've got a lot to say about this topic. PostNord will only make deliveries once a week unless people pay more. This is an extra battle article, so it's got to be good. Let's translate this so I don't have to read my American Danish to you. There's a recession looming at PostNord. In addition to a capital injection, a round of layoffs must be on. This translation is not. God, Danish is such a bad language to translate.
It's actually not that bad because it's a Germanic language. You should try translating
this to German,
Latin languages or stuff like that.
Anyways, as part of a rescue plan, it put up to Danes that want to receive regular mail once a week. What? This kind of item distribution is also called a flower model. This means that postal districts were divided into areas. Each gets one fixed day of the week where they receive their regular mail. And only if you pay for a so-called quick letter or an A letter will you get to ensure that the mail comes right away.
Do you think people still send letters?
Well, that's what I'm curious about. Is this only about letters or about packages? Because if it's about letters, I could care less because I think, honestly, who fucking sends a letter anymore? Unless you need to send some like notarized legal documents.
I think letters is just translation. I think it might include packages.
Because they talk about A letters, which is the class of letters. It's similar to the United States. You have the USPS first class. That's like the gold standard. You know, if you send a mail on first class, it can be anywhere in the States within like 3 days max.
Yeah.
And I think they have an A letter here. Anyways, I thought this was going to be more about packages, and maybe it still is.
But I think it includes packages.
Okay, if it includes packages, then I am pissed. Because honestly, the fucking postal service here is just obnoxiously bad. It's so shitty. And the reason is because people are fucking lazy. Those guys, like basically at the beginning of their day, they go and they find out on a sheet or a screen or whatever what kind of packages they have to deliver. And then they need to load either their van or their bike up with those packages and also their letters, right? And I feel like what ends up happening is we'll order a package and it will say that it's in, you know, Kastrup, and then now it's in the local office and it's out for delivery today. Like when you check the track and trace online, Out for delivery at 6 in the morning. Okay. So that means the guy has put it on his bike or his van or whatever, right? But what ends up happening, and then you stay home all day because you're waiting for the fucking package because it's some important shit that you just got to have. And so you need it now. And you're expecting it. So you wait all day. Nobody knocks on the door. You check the mailbox. Nothing's there yet. Of course, because you check it too early and then you check it after he normally comes and all that stuff, right? And then you find out, oh, you've got some regular letters. And then he left a note for you that said, hey, I tried to deliver your package, but you weren't home.
But were you home for it?
But yes, I was. I mean, this has happened to us at least 20 or 30 times where we've been home all day. Our doorbell works. Like, we're not like in the shower and we're not like taking a shit. We're like sitting here. Our apartment is small, Dolph. I mean, we're right here. We can hear if somebody's here. I can even hear if somebody's coming up the stairs, you know?
Yeah.
And people don't come to the door. And I think what ends up happening is the guys, they're like, this package is kind of big and annoying to carry around. So I'm not going to load it in my bike. But what I am going to do is pre-fill out a little sheet that says, I tried to deliver your package today, but you weren't home. And I actually saw a news article on DR about this maybe 3 or 4 months ago. There was a guy that basically had a package coming, and I guess he's had it happen to him multiple times. But he had a package coming, and he actually has like surveillance video outside of his house or whatever to, you know, like watch his car and his entrance and all that, I guess for security and insurance purposes or whatever. So he has like recording shit installed. And there was like a note dropped for him saying that, you know, he wasn't home or whatever. But I like security footage like confirmed they didn't even come to bring the shit. They just dropped the note only.
Yeah, that's just
and it has happened. Like, if it only had ever happened to me 1 or 2 times, whatever. Like, I get it. You had a bad day. You didn't want to carry the package. But it happens regularly.
No, everybody that I know
has complained about it. And I think what the employees do is they don't get in any trouble as long as they fill out that little form. So if they just don't feel like carrying your package today, then they fucking don't. And then they fill out a form and then they never get in any trouble. And you can't really complain to anybody who will do anything about it, you know? And then finally you get your package a day or 2 later anyway. And so, okay, at this point, like, are you really going to go through the Herculean fucking task of complaining about it? And
do you think they're understaffed, or do you think there's some kind of malice between the
there's probably a bit of understaffing, and or there's just probably a bit of overwork, because I can imagine if I had like to deliver mail and I got to deliver, let's say 100 different people's individual letters, like just normal regular mail that's lightweight and easy, and then I have to deliver 30 or 40 packages along with that too. That's a lot of shit to load up and sort and deliver. So yeah, like maybe I'd even do the same thing. And then you don't know what their kind of quotas and performance plan. Because if you drive for like UPS or if you deliver for UPS, you're not allowed to waste like any fucking time. Like, they track you down to the second.
Yeah, they even have rules that you don't make left turns.
Yeah,
and stuff
you
like
don't
that.
you don't ever make left turns because it's not optimal. Like, it's better to make 3 right turns than a left turn and all that. And they're serious about it at UPS. Of course, that's a private company, and I guess PostNord is also a private company. So maybe they're trying to do some of that optimization shit.
Well, they're going to lay off people, right?
Well, this is like the typical privatization story, right? We're going to make it private because then that'll allow us more capital and we'll be able to do it more efficiently. And what ends up happening is they come in, they fire a bunch of fucking people. The people at the top make a lot of fucking money for, you know, nothing really. They quote, create shareholder value, which means they fire a bunch of people and take that money and just give it to shareholders or enrich themselves. The actual business becomes worse for the end consumer and the customers suffer. And then they call it a fucking big success. And then they go on and they're the CEO of some other fucking company. And they say how successful they were in restructuring the business at whatever. And it just makes me fucking sick. The last company I worked for, they got bought out by some big company. Same thing. Oh, we're not going to fire anybody. A year later, like 20% of the remaining people were still there. And the company had kind of just, I mean, really, the customers suffered. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that whole privatization story, I think it's a giant crock of shit. So.
Yeah, I was kind of hopeful because, Post-DK, which was the name before, they were really crappy.
Yeah.
And I was kind of hoping that once they were bought by PostNord, since I I believe PostNord also is acting postal delivery in Sweden and maybe Norway as well.
Yeah.
That it would kind of improve, and I'm assuming that in those countries it's not as bad as it's here.
No.
But I guess so far I haven't seen any kind of improvement whatsoever.
Well, I saw another article that basically said that Denmark had basically the worst postal service in all of Scandinavia,
Yeah, no surprises
and
there.
maybe even in Europe.
Only people who don't live here are surprised by those stats.
Yeah, which is crazy because, I mean, everything on every other metric, I think that Denmark does a really good job. But, I mean, you know what they say? You can't polish a turd, right? So, I mean, if the postal service was shit before it got bought, God knows it's going to get even shittier once you privatize
But there's good
it.
alternatives. That's the thing. There's GLS.
Right, but as a consumer, sometimes have the option to select that. But a lot of times the vendor doesn't give you an option to choose, hey, I want to ship it with GLS, hey, I want to ship it with PostNord. Sometimes they do, it's true. But I mean, there's a lot of places that just default to like only PostNord. And then you have to pay that shitty rate, and then you got to deal with a fucking driver not wanting to deliver your package because maybe he's overworked or stressed, or maybe he's just fucking lazy or whatever. I don't know. But it's not just some like little problem where a few people have it. Everybody has it, and it just seems like nobody gives a fuck.
Well, I think people give a fuck. I just don't know if they actually do anything about it.
Yeah. And to be fair, it's kind of like a first world problem, right? Like, oh, didn't get my package today, got to wait one more day. But I mean, for a country where people complain so much about like the public transit, and it's actually pretty good, and sometimes it has problems or whatever, but like you would think that Danes of all people, they find something to complain about sometimes, you know, like, oh, the trains are shitty, or, you know, with the weather or whatever. You'd think they'd be fucking complaining about packages.
And they do. I wonder how it rates on Trustpilot.
What, PostNord?
Yeah, I'm sure it's not going to be very good. Do you think it's above 3? It's up to 5, right? So do you think it's above average? Above 2.5?
Fuck no. Fuck no. I bet it's like a 1.8 or like 2.4 maximum. That's maximum, 2.4.
I actually think it must be higher. I've never seen anything really that low on Trustpilot.
Are you kidding me? Trustpilot. That's because the only people that give reviews are people who are either happy or hate it.
Yeah, that's true.
100%. Let's see. PostNord. Trustpilot.
PostNord. You see? Look at that. 7.7 out of 10.
Holy shit, really?
But the most recent one is 2 stars.
And this one is about delivery, right? The delivery was late.
Yeah, late delivery.
Yeah, promised package to a specific date, and due to hospitalization, got another person.
It's a translation for it.
Okay, well, whatever. Unacceptable. Next time, I'd suggest you not place my parcel 3.5 kilometers away from where I live in the end of the city. Have you ever had that happen? I've had that.
No, not that far. I've definitely had to pick up packages that were far from where I live, but not 3.5 kilometers. Maybe 1 kilometer, 1.5 kilometers, but nothing that bad. Can you lower the brightness of your monitor? It's kind of blinding.
Is it too bright? I don't think I can really lower the brightness of it, but it's just because it's all.
I'll just turn on the light
white.
then.
No, it's not that. There's no light there.
All right.
It's here. Is it really that big a deal? Hang on, let's just do that. Is that better?
It's a bit better, yeah.
All right, let me go right back to that big bright screen. So, anyways, PostNord, it fucking sucks. PostNord,
it's probably the second biggest complaint after the weather.
It's actually, it really is. The most annoying thing outside of the weather for me is just the fact that, I mean,
you also order a lot of stuff.
It doesn't like affect my life so fucking much.
But when you order stuff, you're excited to get it, and then you kind of track it, and then all of a sudden it's like it's going to be delivered tomorrow.
Well, and the worst thing about it is that they get your fucking hopes up. It's scheduled. It's out on the truck for delivery today.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
That means it's going to be delivered today.
It's going to be delivered today. So I'm going to stay home today because I'm waiting on X, whatever it is, you know? And then you stay home all fucking day waiting to get your new gadget or game or toy or whatever the fuck you're going to get. And it doesn't show up. And you know that you were home all day. And then the fucking icing on the cake is like, if it didn't show up at all and there was no note, okay, yeah, maybe they just couldn't make it or maybe it got lost or whatever. But no, they fucking leave you a note, a slip that says, we tried to deliver your package today, but you weren't home. You fucking liar. I was home all fucking day, you asshole.
Waiting for this
fucking package with surveillance video showing you never fucking showed up with it, you asshole.
And now I have to wait again tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, I think the other thing they do is like, let's say that you work a certain days and you know if you don't deliver your package today, you're off tomorrow. So some other jackass has to bring your 40-kilo package.
Yeah.
So you just,
maybe
you put that note there and you're like, well, whatever, we'll let Johnny deal with that one.
Especially if they have to bring it on bikes. Because some of the postal delivery guys, they go around in bikes. I don't know if they go around here because it's a bit far.
But they have those, yeah, they do use bikes here. They have the electric bikes. And if they run out of batteries, then they just call and a van comes out and brings them new batteries.
Okay.
So, I mean, come on. It's not that fucking bad.
So there's no excuse.
Yeah, no excuse.
Bring me my package.
Bring me my fucking package. The next thing on our list, record elm pollen counts, a bad omen for sufferers for allergies. No. Experts blame climate change for the early start and bringing much higher counts. The dreaded birch pollen season is getting closer.
Is that a Danish thing? Because I know a couple of people who every year would complain about that. But I don't think I've ever heard people complaining about that when I lived in Portugal. So is that a regional thing, or is it just that I just register more now that I'm older when people complain about stuff like that?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know much about the trees and the plant life and stuff in Portugal. It depends a lot on the species of the tree. And also, I think the percentage of like, like the density or the distribution of certain trees. Like if you have an abnormally high amount of pine trees or elm or whatever it is, like it's not really well balanced, you know?
Yeah.
It says here, last Saturday was a bad day for elm pollen sufferers in Copenhagen as the count set an all-time high, or at least since records began in the 1970s. A record 550 particles per cubic meter were recorded, a testament to the high number of elm trees in southern Scandinavia. Another factor is the advent of spring, of course, which led to the elm and hazel season starting on February 21st, 5 to 6 weeks earlier than 40 years ago.
So are we technically in spring now?
Technically, I guess.
It doesn't feel like it.
No. Climate change to blame. Climate change means there will be more and more pollen. The season starting earlier and higher pollen counts. Karen Rasmussen of Asthma Allergy Denmark told DR. Rasmussen advises sufferers to avoid outdoor activities, to rinse their hair before bedtime, and when possible to wear sunglasses when cycling. In addition, hanging clothes to dry outside is probably not a good idea either. Birch is still worse. Due to an abnormally high propensity of trees in the region, birch pollen counts can run into the thousands of particles, affecting people who have never previously suffered from hay fever before moving here. So if you're just relocated here and start feeling like you've been struck down by mild flu in mid-April, it's probably because the birch pollen season has started. The medication needed to treat the allergy tends to be prescription only. And they do have the daily pollen counts on DMI, that's right.
Yeah, I never... Thankfully, I never suffered from stuff like that.
Yeah, I never look at them too much either. But, interesting.
So it's earlier than 40 years ago. That's what they said. Like, spring came earlier, or it's just that...
5 to 6 weeks earlier than 40 years ago, yeah.
Wow, what's technically spring coming then? Because it certainly doesn't feel like spring.
No, but today it was bright outside. It was really
today
nice.
and yesterday were
it
the
looked good. It's still cold outside. Okay, well, I mean, I have some allergy problems at certain points. I'm not like super bad, but I do get the sniffles, you know?
Yeah, the infamous sniffles by now. Yeah. No allergies here.
Okay, former police chief in hot water over a forgotten gun in a toilet at the Danish parliament. Let's take a look. In the case, let's see, a 63-year-old security guard working at Parliament, a retired police chief, no less, left his Heckler & Koch service pistol with 12 live rounds in the toilet. Following a complaint to the Independent Police Complaints Authority, the security guard is this week being prosecuted at Copenhagen City Court for gross negligence and carelessness. The defendant, who faces a fine of 10,000 crowns, has pleaded not guilty to the charge. It's believed his lawyer will question whether the location was a public place. That's some lawyer. That's some lawyer.
Well-
On technicality, excuse me, it's not really a public place. It's the parliament.
Yeah, but that's tricky.
What a
yeah.
bad place to leave a gun, though, right? Because then they argue, well, what if somebody went in the toilet, got the gun, and went to assassinate some politician? I don't know.
Yeah, well, I do think that it's definitely better to forget your gun there than forgetting it at some nightclub, like in the bathroom of a nightclub. But yeah, it's a bit tricky.
But this was last year. On the day in question, February 26, 2016, it was fully 15 minutes until the security guard realized he had left his gun in the first floor toilet, by which time it had been reported to the Parliament's security chief.
Wow.
Wait, are you sure this article is right? Because this article was written March 9th, 2017, and then it says the day in question was 26th of February, 2016.
Well, either it's a typo,
Yeah, and it could have been 2017,
or
it really was a
maybe
year ago.
now there's some. Now it took a long time for it to go to trial. Or I don't know.
Yeah, the wheels of justice move slowly.
But does it really matter if it was this year or last year? I mean,
Yeah.
it happened.
And honestly, look, man, as much as you say, like, I mean, I can't say that I've ever done anything like that when I was carrying a gun. I was, like, very careful and mindful about it at all times.
But it could have happened.
I mean, if you're taking a shit, you got to take your gun off of your pants and you got to put it somewhere. Well, here, no, because actually you have a fully closed-in bathroom where nobody can see you taking a shit. In the U.S., you actually do have to worry about that. And a little trick I used to do is I would just pull my boxers up and wrap them over the handle of the gun. So it was still in my pants, but you couldn't see it at all.
Okay, but do you? I mean, he clearly needs to have some added responsibility for the fact of that he's carrying a gun.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, he's 63. I guess. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like in certain states in the U.S., we have you need to retest your driver's license after you get a certain age to make sure that, like, you're still capable of being safe with it and all that. And I think if you're licensed to carry a gun, I mean, he's a security guard, but he has a gun. I never see security guards here with guns unless they're, like, police.
Yeah, but they're not in the parliament either.
Right, but he's a retired, former deputy police inspector. He was the head of Copenhagen Police.
And now he's working at the parliament or what?
But is he working in a private regard, or is he still if you work for parliament or to secure parliament, is that a private job or is that a public job?
I would assume it's public. Well, unless they hire a private company.
Yeah, to contract to do it. But then who gives the clearance to whether or not you're allowed to have a gun or not like that in a professional capacity, right? Because Denmark is already, there's a limited set of circumstances you can even own a gun. And on top of that, if you're talking about using it as a professional, maybe having to use it to defend something or someone, there's got to be a whole additional set of regulations and requirements on top of that. So, I mean, I think that would go to a licensing committee and say, look, you just can't carry your gun anymore. You're not allowed to have it.
Yeah.
But again, is that a little harsh? I don't know. Maybe he should need to go through some remediation classes.
Yeah,
and I mean, it's already a pretty harsh reminder. You can imagine he's never going to fucking make this mistake again.
Well, no, but the thing is, he really just needs to make that mistake once for someone to...
But nothing did happen here.
Well, yeah, but you can't really take that into as a...
Can you?
Well, no, that's if you come to my place and I built some bombs and I just have them there, it's I'm not going to use them. Nothing happened.
Okay, but take this. Remember, we were talking about last podcast. We were talking about the Danish woman who was arrested in the U.S. for leaving her kid outside.
Yeah.
Nothing happened to the kid except that somebody reported it, and then the police came and they arrested the mother. So you could argue, actually, the kid's life was made worse by just the action. But nothing happened to the kid, and maybe something would have happened to him, maybe nothing did. But do you need to punish her like something did happen, even though nothing did happen?
Well, maybe you don't need to punish in the same way, but
What I'm
well,
saying is, what I'm saying for this guy with the gun situation, clearly it was a bad decision. It was at me. But I mean, right after you take a shit, the first thing you're thinking about is washing your hands, depending on how nasty the shit was. Or at least that's me. You know, pull the pants up and go wash the hands. So maybe he went to go do that and then like was like, oh yeah, I'll come back and get the gun. Just 1 second. It's not going to leave my sight and nobody's going to walk in there before I do that. And then he just forgot about it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's easy enough to do.
I know, but I think you have a certain responsibility if you're carrying a gun. And you can't.
No doubt about it.
You can't allow
you have a
something like
huge
that.
responsibility. What I'm saying is, like, I don't know what the punishment should be for him. I guess 10,000 crowns is the fine, and that's it. So money.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not even that big an amount of money. You know, it's not like going to ruin his life.
No. Okay.
I mean, it's tricky, and I'm not a lawyer, obviously.
If you've carried a gun,
this thing should not happen.
Like, look, yeah, it's true. But if you've carried a gun every single day of your life, like 4 or 5 years, like I have, I think a lot of people who've never carried one think of it as this super dangerous thing that's going to go off and just go out and kill people on its own. Like, it needs somebody to have bad intentions.
Sure, but if you leave it in a public place, anyone can go pick it up and use it.
But is this toilet in the parliament a public place? Like, are people realistically is a guy off the street just going to get in there?
Maybe not the guy from the street, but the parliament, as far as I know, it's not like a super secluded place where nobody other than politicians can go in.
Well, anyways, this kind of stuff can happen, I guess. It probably shouldn't happen. I never, that wasn't something I ever did. Oh, well. I guess he'll be fined. Or his lawyer will argue the technicalities. I think a fine is okay.
I think a fine is
I think more than anything, he should probably go through some more training.
Yeah, I mean, he's also old, right?
Mm-hmm. Like 63. Maybe it's about time he hung his gun up.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, this is where let's see. The next thing we talked about, the unemployed should help sweep the streets.
That's an interesting statement.
What do we got?
I'm sure whoever made that statement has never thought about the possibility of them actually becoming an employed. Yeah.
That's right. Cecilia Lonning-Skovgaard wants Copenhagen's unemployed to clean the streets. As the leading candidate for the Liberal Party, Venstre, in November's... Oh, that's what always messes me up. It's the Liberal Party,
but Liberal
and
is
it's Venstre, and so I think left and Liberal...
But Liberal is not really the same.
No, okay. In November's upcoming municipal elections, she argues that 500 of the city's welfare recipients could help tackle the city's trash problems. We have a resource of labor that we could use. I believe it is a healthy principle that you have to contribute in order to receive the unemployment benefits our society provides. And therefore, we think that in this way, we can kill two birds with one stone. On the one hand, we'll be able to see how willing to work those receiving benefits really are when we ask them to pitch in. And at the same time, we'll get help cleaning the city for everyone's enjoyment. And that's it.
It's really tricky. It's one of those things that when you just read it like that, it sounds kind
like
of
a good idea.
Yeah, okay,
sounds
of course,
like a pretty good
not?
idea.
But there's more to it than that, you know. Like for example, I could imagine. I think there's a limit of 2 years until you're gonna receive that
the benefit
for 2 years, and then I think maybe you can extend it for 1 more year or 2 more years. So for example, I would be more willing to be like, okay, if they pass those first 2 years, then maybe then
you require them to be on that as like a part-time job,
some volunteer work or something like that, some social work, like once a week, something that's clearly not going to impact their lives too much.
Yeah. Well, you also have to think these kind of programs. I mean, I don't know if you've ever done any community service.
No, I have not.
I had to do some community service when I was younger, and it requires and I think I had to pick up trash and do some other shit like that. And I mean, you don't just, in a way, yes, you kind of just hand a guy a bag and some gloves and say, get to work. But at the same time, you have to have
some kind of training?
Well, maybe not training is the right word, but you have to have the people to tell them, hey, you're going to pick up trash today. You're going to do it from store to, this place. That's going to be your area. I need you to empty trash cans and clean bottles and cans. If there are syringes, just call this people. They'll come get it, whatever. There has to be some rules, regulations, and kind of maybe not training, but just like a general somebody to get them started. You got to have gloves. You got to have, whatever. You need bags and shit. And you probably need some vans to get the people to the right places and pick up the bags once they're done. So it's like, it's a great idea to say, we're just going to immediately take 500 people and they're just going to be self-starting and just start cleaning stuff on their own. But the reality is this requires you to kind of create a program and or integrate it with some existing stuff. And then you probably have some full-time employees of the city that do this for a living that are now going to need to kind of train and take these people under their wing. And these people are only going to do it temporarily. So it's not like they're going to really try their fucking hardest and do a great job at it. And they're only just kind of doing it so they don't lose their unemployment. So, I think as you said, I mean, it sounds like a good idea. But is it
I don't know.
really
I don't know if
worth
to me, it sounds like a bad idea. But I'm trying to really try to see the
good in it.
the good in it, I guess, or try to see if there's something I might be missing.
Yeah.
But it doesn't sound to me like a good idea. That's my knee-jerk reaction is not. I was just saying that the headline sounds
Reasonable.
Well, it sounds like something that when you just read the headline, you're like, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. Why not? But I think there's a lot more to it.
But
than
like
just
most things,
that.
like most things, if it sounds too good or too easy, it just sounds like, oh, that sounds like a natural solution. Like the reality is it's probably a little more complicated than you think. Like when Trump thought he was just going to fix healthcare with like a swing of a pen. He's like, oh, it turns out healthcare is really complicated. Oh, you didn't say so.
Yeah, and you're in a way I don't want to use the word slave, but it feels a bit that it's like, okay, we're gonna give you this welfare, but you're gonna need to do these things that we want you to do.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's an argument to be had, right? I mean, in some ways, I can see how people would want to press for this. Hey, if you're on an unemployment benefits and you're taking up people's tax money, like you should be doing something. And like you said, after 2 years, like still haven't found anything, then maybe it is a good idea to start trying to see if people are really serious about getting a job and they just can't find one, which I think does happen to people here. Or if they're just kind of milking the system for benefits, which I think also happens here. But there's never going to be a system that fixes all of that.
No.
And for such a small number of people, 500, to create a new system and vans and trucks and gloves and have people
they
tell
might
them,
just join
because you got to show
group.
up every day, and then okay, we got 20 new guys. These guys have never picked up trash for us before. We got to tell them, okay, we need you to fill 4 bags apiece, and you're doing this, and there needs to be some organization and somebody handing shit out, and so then you have to pay somebody else to do that, and again, since they're really not, like, this isn't their life's passion, picking up trash, like, they're really going to do the bare fucking minimum. Unless, of course, they say, hey, once you fill 4 bags, you get to go. In which case, I would be finding the biggest, bulkiest fucking trash I could find, fill up 4 bags, toss
just get
it
some
in there,
rocks
say,
from the street.
just pick up some rocks and just tell them, here, fuck you, here's the bags.
Here's your quota, my quota.
That's right.
It's kind of interesting. This week, I live on Istigal.
Yeah.
And this week when I was walking to work,
how's the trash level?
No, it's not about the trash,
Oh.
but I mean, I see there's people almost every day asking me for money.
Yeah.
And so I'm walking to work in the morning, and this woman stops me, and she looks like a normal woman. She doesn't look homeless or anything, but she stops me. And she asked me if I'm Danish. I don't really understood why why it mattered if I was Danish or not.
Yeah.
Maybe because she couldn't really speak English very well.
Okay.
So she couldn't express what she wanted to say. But she was like, she was a normal looking woman. She looked like someone's grandmother. She didn't look like a homeless person. But she stops me. She asks me if I'm Danish. And when I reply in Danish, she just starts explaining that she's receiving some unemployment benefit, and it's been late this month, so she is asking for money. But she gave that explanation, and I believed her because she really looked like
normal.
Well, at least not homeless.
Mm-hmm.
I think I had a point with this, but I mean, yeah, it's like, are you going to put just a woman like that
Cleaning trash.
picking up trash? I don't know. I don't know her. I don't know if she was
A good person.
actively looking for a job or not, or if she was just kind of riding it. She seemed to be. She used the word like, "This is really embarrassing," but blah blah blah. Before she gave the explanation, so you could see that. Or at least maybe I'm too naive, but at least I felt that she wasn't like one of the people who was like, "Oh, I'm just trying to milk the system,"
Right.
You know.
Right.
And then if you put people like that just picking up trash, maybe it's degrading. I don't. Maybe it's too degrading. I don't know. Maybe it's just who the fuck knows.
Yeah, I think there is some, and there's some. Then you'll have an aspect of like, it is a little bit degrading, especially if you're like even somewhat educated, and yeah, you're like a professionally trained, I don't know, artist or journalist or doctor or whatever it is, and then yeah, they've got you out here picking up trash. I would feel some resentment, towards the system and the city. Like, what the fuck are you guys, like, really? Is this really going to help me picking up trash for 1 week out of the year because I'm on unemployment and you want me to do this to prove that I'm trying? Like, it just feels a little bit like a slap in the face. Like, kick me when I'm down, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyways, I think if there's a trash problem, they should hire some more fucking people to deal with the trash because honestly, you pay enough in taxes here to pay for it. 100%.
Even if you just hire people in part-time, I'm sure there's going to be people.
Just just create a new company and hire 500 people part-time. Don't create a government program to fucking orchestrate it. Just hire more fucking cleaning people. That's it. Just let the private market or handle that. Like, seriously, just say, hey, we have 500 cleaning positions. Some company, come fill them. And then what's that big cleaning firm? Or it's like it's a conglomerate firm.
I don't know.
It's a Danish one. I've learned about it in my Danish classes, and you see the name around as well.
Okay, but now imagine if you have someone who is unemployed for 2 years or even for 1 year, and they're receiving benefits, and they are actively looking for a job, but they've seen a few jobs that they, for example, didn't apply to because they didn't. Or they felt it was beneath them or something like that.
Do you think they're going to think
no,
trash is beneath them?
So now imagine they're looking for a job, and a new job position comes up like this, like we're hiring 500 people to clean the streets.
They're not going to go for it.
They're not going to go for it, right?
But somebody will. Some people will. Not the ones. Yeah, maybe not everybody looking on unemployment benefits will.
Do you think they should be forced to pick a job? And if that's the only job, because then it's the same. Like if for example, because
in Texas, I think. I know that they do have a system in Texas where it's like you put for unemployment to file for unemployment benefits, you have to put in all your kind of experience and where you were working before and how much you were making, and then they have a rule that says like they have their own internal thing where jobs are posted to it, and there's like some kind of listed jobs that are on the approved list of stuff that kind of, the way it works is that let's say you were making $15 an hour before you were on unemployment benefits. Then once you apply for unemployment benefits, you have to apply for at least like 3 jobs every week on the site. And if there are jobs that are relevant to your experience there, and they pay within around 80% of what your previous job paid. So I guess if the last job was paying $15 an hour, now you need to at least apply for things that pay 13 or whatever the number is. Yeah. And if you don't, then they can remove your benefits. So there's like strict requirements.
And I think there's similar stuff here.
So, I think that, there should be some system like that. But I don't know. This cleaning thing, it sounds like a bad idea. Just hire some more fucking cleaners. Don't try to be this hero politician. Oh, I'm going to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. It'll be so easy. And then you just realize the program is a giant waste of time. And
was it just a random quote, or is this something that they're actually trying to pass?
Well, she's a leading candidate for the Liberal Party, and this is some upcoming municipal elections, and she's trying to probably argue some plans that people will say, oh, that sounds like a great idea. So
it's more like a campaign promise.
Yeah, it's like a campaign promise, and we know how those go. Holy shit, man. All right, well, enough about that. The last thing I guess we wanted to wrap up on that we thought might be kind of interesting was this guy from the local.dk, Justin Creamer. He was the local Denmark's editor since the site's very launch. Is saying goodbye as he prepares to move back to the U.S., and he reflects on what he's most likely to miss after nearly 7 years in Copenhagen. So I guess this guy was an American that moved over here and has a Danish wife, I believe, and Danish kids.
Okay. So let's see what he's gonna miss.
Yeah, he said, "This is it. After nearly 7 years of living in Denmark and covering the Danish news in English, I'm on my way back to the U.S. I already know there's a lot of things I'll miss about the wonderful country and its people, and things I won't, but we'll save those for another day."
I don't think he'll miss the weather or the taxes.
No. Here are the 10 things that definitely make his list. Number 1, biking everywhere.
Yes, I'd miss that as well. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, it may sound like a small thing, but I've come to truly appreciate starting every morning on my bike rather than fighting traffic in a car. Whether escorting my kids to school and daycare or biking to the train station for the short ride into Copenhagen, where in a true sign that I became semi-Danish, I had a second bike waiting for me. He loves the fresh air, moderate exercise, and sense of freedom. I agree. I even developed a strange fondness for biking in the snow and rain, although I never could accept the strong winds that seemed to blast me in the face no matter which direction.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's the fucking worst.
It's probably one of the things I'd miss the most, even though I don't bicycle that much nowadays. I love the possibility of just going anywhere without a car in a healthy way. And I just think it's fun.
And an environmentally kind of friendly
environmentally
way.
friendly.
And it's quiet.
Fast. A lot of times it's faster than actually driving.
And it's quiet. Like, well, I mean...
Well, in the future, it's going to be run up with Teslas all over, so it's going to be much quieter as well.
Okay, but I mean, generally, there's just less racket. But actually, I was reading... I saw something like 2 or 3 years ago or right around when we moved here, I was reading some news. And it was an article that said the sound of Copenhagen. You know what the sound of Copenhagen is?
No, what is it?
It's the sound of the freewheel. That's the gears on the bike that as you're coasting, it just makes that clicking sound as you're approaching.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I could definitely imagine that there would be some bicycle-related sound there.
Yeah, it's totally different. I mean... Coming from Texas, man, there's not really much biking there unless you're just doing it for sport and enthusiasm.
There's no biking almost anywhere in the world.
It's true. Well,
at least not such
the Netherlands as well, and Germany has great bicycle paths also.
Yes, but even in Germany, I find it unlikely that you would
not as good as infrastructure is here. Yeah,
that you think of the country as a bicycling country in that sense.
Maybe not.
At least I haven't. I mean, I haven't been everywhere in Germany. But
no. Anyways, I think that this is a big thing that now that I've lived here for so long, you just kind of accept it as normal.
It's one of the greatest things about Copenhagen.
But if I went somewhere else, I think I would just feel so strange. Like, where's all the bikes?
Yeah, I don't know if... I think I'd probably very quickly stop missing it.
Yeah.
But every time I'd remember it, I would think of it fondly. Yes, it's...
And I
think it's such a nice
for little
thing.
Small trips, like if you moved somewhere and there was a place that was maybe, I don't know, 2 or 3 kilometers away and you go there regularly. I mean, of course you can walk that distance or...
It's just so practical.
Hopping on the bike,
just
it's
hop
so
on the
easy.
Bike. It's easy, it's practical, it's fast, it's... Yeah, environmentally friendly. It's healthy. It's just great.
Yeah,
I love it.
Number 2, work-life balance. Long before I left for Denmark, I was incredibly put off by the hyper-competitive nature of the American workplace. In one of my jobs back home, there seemed to be a sick contest between employees over who could work the longest hours. Ironically, those who often won that contest were the same people dicking around during much of the traditional workday. I much prefer the Danish method of getting down to business during work hours and then getting the hell out of the office at 4 p.m. or earlier rolls around. And in Denmark, you don't get the dirty looks when you have to leave the office early to take your kids to the swimming class. And you don't need to try to curry professional favor by staying late. Your boss wouldn't even notice anyway, as he's probably out of the door at 3 p.m. with the rest of them. I agree. This is like very close to the experience I had. There was a bunch of this kind of cutthroat competitive nature of working in the U.S. where the longer you work, the more like you're seen as a good worker. And if you leave early, you're seen as like not contributing to the team or letting the team down. And it's true. There's only so much shit you can do. So if I stay there for 10 hours and I was going to work about a good 7 to 8 of those anyway, then the other 2 hours, I'm going to probably be checking Reddit or YouTube or some other shit, or, like
Yeah.
looking at my phone or something. And so you can only really realistically expect somebody to give their all to a task for a certain period of time. And then anything more than that, they're just warming a chair. So maybe they should be gone anyway. Then you don't have to pay them overtime and all that.
Yeah, I do think. I mean, I guess I've been called a bit of a hippie as well, but I do think that the 8 hours a
It's too
day
long.
of work is
It's
way
too
too
long.
long. It's
And
way too
they've
long.
done studies in I think Sweden and other places.
Yeah, Sweden was
about
going
like
to
the
reduce
4-hour
it.
workday or something, or maybe 5-hour. I don't remember.
Something between 4 and 6. Yes.
But I think that's more realistic about how much work you would actually do in a day.
Yeah, for sure. There would be a lot less fucking around. Or at least I imagine so.
Yeah, and anyways, I just think that they have a better balance here for sure. There's less of that hyper competitive nature and where like another guy will cut your throat to get your position or get a raise or get a bonus that you would have gotten, and so there's just kind of this backstabby shit that happens in the American office.
Yeah, I think in Portugal it's somewhat similar as
Mm.
well. I thankfully I never had to work in Portugal. I never had a job in Portugal.
Yeah.
But of course, I know a lot of people who do have and who have had, and I know people who have worked in Portugal and now work here.
Yeah.
And it's
They like it
it's
better
like
here.
light and day. It's
Yeah.
completely different. And that's something that I do. It's clear for me to see that the balance between life and work, or work and life,
Yeah.
here
good.
is miles ahead of most other countries, if not nearly all of them.
And it's about what, a 37-hour work week, and you get a lot of vacation.
Yeah,
Everybody gets
You
vacation.
get a lot of vacation.
5 weeks, right?
Yeah, 25 days, if I'm not mistaken.
25 days.
Plus, you get days for like sick kids and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. And
you
it's
have
true. And you can always
1 year
maternity leave. And
leave.
if you're the father, then any time in the next 7 years or something, you can take time off as well.
Yeah, it's
It's a great system. And yeah, like if you need to leave early, like your boss, like if we need to go early, it's not a big deal. You just go.
No, people don't ask questions. I mean, that's probably not the same in every single company.
No.
But yeah, there's not.
But I remember my old job. I mean, you had to punch in and out of the clock all the time. And like if you were late by like 1 or 2 minutes, and you were late like 3 times in a row, they'd call you into the office and say, "Hey, looks like you got in here about 2 minutes late 3 days out of this week. So that's 6 total minutes you were late. We're going to have to, like, we're not going to pay you for those 6 minutes." Or, yeah, like, we need you
Well,
to start coming in here on time.
Yeah.
Really? Like 6 fucking minutes in a whole week. Get out of here. But, yeah, that's a good one.
Number 3.
Number 3, Huga.
Yeah, that was expected, I guess.
Oh, he should clarify that he won't miss the word Huga, which has become so overused that it's lost its meaning. It has. Especially after being co-opted by a publishing industry eager to capitalize on its popularity.
Yeah, it's like just a new trend.
But he will miss what Huga means to him, which is putting in the effort to make any given situation more enjoyable and cozy.
Yeah, that's something that I've also noticed, and that after moving to Denmark, there is an effort into making the environment, like especially with candles and stuff like that, making the environment feel cozy, and yeah, just having these small things that you probably don't think about unless you're from here, I guess. But when you start noticing them everywhere, you're like, yeah, this is such a small thing that makes a big difference. Like the low lights, the candles. What else? I don't know. I feel that every time I was at a family gathering with my ex-girlfriend, there was also always some kind of snack around, like nuts or chips or stuff like that. Like
Yeah.
every single time.
Yeah, I mean, let's see what he says. There's some exceptions, but he's always struck by how different his get togethers with friends are in the US when compared to Denmark. When meeting with American friends, whether in homes or at a bar, there always seems to be a television screen on that sucks attention from the people you're supposed to be there to see. Hell, in some American bars and restaurants, you can't even escape the TV screen in the bathroom. Add in the smartphone in everybody's hand, and you have a recipe for very superficial and not particularly satisfying conversations. I would tend to agree with this.
Yeah,
Yeah. And instead, like here, well, first off,
there's alcohol.
well, okay. But second, you do have to work kind of hard to be cozy enough with a Dane to actually be hanging out with them either at their place or at your place. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
Danes,
it's not something that
Danes are
just
pretty
happens.
private.
Yeah, yeah.
But once you actually do, I think it's usually more meaningful or kind of cozy. Oh boy, she's thirsty.
Yes.
Our cat is letting us know that she'd like some fresh water. But
She's missing some hygge.
yeah, she's just commenting that she likes hygge. No, I don't think that's a like comment. The fourth item on the list: water everywhere.
Well, I guess when you live in an island.
Yeah, he grew up in a completely landlocked Iowa, so living in Denmark has given him all sorts of opportunities to quench my longing for the sea. Many of his fondest memories include the water, whether it's just a run-of-the-mill summer afternoon drinking beers and diving into the harbor at Eastensburg, or the family holidays we've had in Ero, Funen, Bornholm, and Northern Jutland.
That's true. I haven't thought about that, but that's something that I actually really enjoy about Copenhagen as well.
The water.
Yeah, that there's
Mhm.
water. Well, maybe not everywhere, but in a lot of places that you can't miss it if you just walk around even just a little bit, you know. Like
Yeah.
there's it's just so all over, and there's bridges, and you go to Heshensound or you go to Ama, and you have to cross bridges, and the Newhound, you just go drink some beers. You have the canals.
Yeah. It's beautiful. It
It's
really
really
it's
nice.
like adds a nice balance. Like
Yeah.
kind of I don't know if it's like a feng shui or like a yin and yang. You know, you have like the earth and the water. It's like you need something of both, right? Like you and I don't know. This is like some yeah. I don't know. I really feel like there is a nice balance here, and it's. I mean, especially coming from Texas, like in Houston, you're basically landlocked as well, unless you want to go like an hour away to get to the beach.
Yeah.
And it just the air feels different too. It just feels more fresh, or like you're more connected to the earth when you're near the ocean or the water. To me, so I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'd never
and
thought about
we
it.
also sail in the channel and stuff like that. So
That's
it's kind of
true.
important to have water when you need to
When
have
you wanna
a sail a
sail, yeah.
boat. What's his number 5 that he's going to miss? The beauty of Copenhagen. Even after spending the better part of a decade in the Danish capital, he was still regularly struck by how truly wonderful Copenhagen is. Coming from the aforementioned Iowa, which is actually a lovely place, he constantly marveled at the fact that people came from all over the world to take in the sights that he sees every day. And he tried to maintain that sense of appreciation throughout his time here between the city's hidden gems and well-known attractions.
I do agree with that as well.
Yeah, like I'm so used to it now, but I still like appreciate the fact that I live in Copenhagen. Like I know that it's one of the nicest cities in the world, you know?
I walk around a lot, and it happens to me often that I just think of how much I do enjoy this city. I live on Istegel, and I love Istegel. And usually when I walk from the central station onwards, so you can really see far out onto the street.
Mm-hmm.
I often think how much I enjoy not only Vesterbro but just Copenhagen in general. I really like, I don't know, I don't know if it's the architecture. I don't know if it's just because it's a first world country, so things are well taken care of, and it's not, I don't know, extremely dirty. Well, maybe some places are, but I just really like the whole feel of the city, the bicycles, the architecture,
Yeah, the people.
the people, the lights at night, especially when it comes to Istiklal, because there's a bunch of neon
Yeah.
signs here and there.
Like I do, but do you feel like? Do you ever feel like, wow, I'm really lucky to be here?
For sure, yeah.
I do
For
too.
sure.
I do.
Especially
100%.
because I ended up here
Yeah.
completely randomly.
Yeah, I kind of did too. Like I kind of just stumbled into here on that conference I came for, and then I just
Yeah, but at least for you, it was a choice.
it was a choice. But I mean, I was like, I was so impressed with the city, and when I first came here, that I just couldn't shut up about it to my girlfriend. I just told her, hey, like it's awesome there, and I was like kind of stuck in this position where I felt depressed and sad. Like, wow, I just saw like one of the nicest places. Like I had no idea a city could be that nice. And I was like, wait a minute, what the fuck am I doing with my life here now? Like,
Was it your first time in Europe?
Yeah, it was. And of course, I come to Copenhagen, which is, I guess, a pretty good choice to start with. Of course, there's a lot of good places I could have gone, right? And probably I would have felt similar about many places.
Probably,
Like if I'd have gone to Prague, or if I'd have gone to Berlin, or you know, something like that. Like I probably, or even London, might have felt the same way. Although for me, London is just too many people. It's more of the same. Houston has 8 million. London has what, 12? And there's like 12 million in the greater Houston. London and Houston, they're just too fucking big. There's too many people. People are dirty, disgusting, annoying. I can handle about 1 million people in a city before I start to get fucking annoyed. But yeah, then I felt like, fuck, what am I doing with my life? I live in a place that's shit compared to like I want to live in Copenhagen.
Yeah.
And I just wouldn't shut up. And of course, my girlfriend had not come yet. And so I was trying to convey to her how awesome it was by showing her like little YouTube videos of couples who had gone on a vacation and just kind of taken some shots of, oh, I saw that part there. That was like a cool. And I just had this sense of wonder about it. But you know, you can't really show somebody how a place is until you take them
No,
there.
until you go there, no.
And so eventually, after 3 or 4 months of me kind of telling her how awesome it was, she was like, well, if it's so fucking great, why don't you get a job there? And I was like, hey, that's a pretty good idea. But then I was like, wait a minute. That's kind of, you know, I'm not going to be able to get a job there. That's like difficult. And then it turned out, yeah, like we kind of had a connection, and you need that here. Like you have to have a network here to get a job, I think.
If it's within IT, I actually don't think it should be that difficult.
Maybe not within IT, but especially trying to get an IT job from overseas and like try to get all that sorted. Like you need to have somebody that wants you enough and is willing to go through the steps and the paperwork and all that. Because the job kind of has to basically sponsor the fact that you're going to be here by giving you that contract and all that.
Yeah, but it's a normal contract. I think if you have IT skills and you move here,
it's not hard. It's not
going to be too difficult to find a job.
No. I mean, and I'd say that 75% of the people in my Danish class are programmers.
Really?
All the guys, they're all programmers or in IT.
That's interesting.
And then
but it's not surprising at all.
I mean, but it's the situation I'm in too. And then like their girlfriend or their significant other is here, either doing what they're educated in or trying to find a job in what they're educated in, while the guy is working in IT. So I think they're just having a huge amount of influx of IT workers.
Are a lot of your colleagues, do they have a Danish partner or they
Most of them don't.
That's interesting.
There's a few people in there, like 1 or 2 or 3 maybe. One girl, she's African, and she's from Kenya, and she has a Faroese or Faroe Islands husband, and they have a kid together, but they live in Copenhagen. And then there's another American girl there that is, I don't think she's married, but I think she has like an engagement ring or something. But anyways, I guess it's her fiance or maybe her kæreste, whatever you want to call it. He's Danish. And she's from like Wisconsin or something.
I think when I was in...
But I think those are the only 2 that I know. There is a Romanian girl that I think also maybe has a Danish husband or something. So 3 out of maybe 15 people have a Danish partner. And then, like, the rest of them are primarily... There's some couples. There's a bunch of couples. There's an Icelandic couple. There's a Venezuelan couple.
And
they're really nice.
Both of them are in the class?
Both of them are also in the class together, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I might be misremembering this, but I do believe that when I was taking Danish classes, and that was, 8 years ago, that most of the people there either had a partner who was Danish, or they were students. I can't actually remember that many. Like, definitely not like 75% of
No.
the guys in my class are programmers. No, I don't remember anything that
We have a
drastic.
lot. I mean, we have a
But
lot.
this was 8 years ago. The
Yeah.
country has changed.
Of
Or the
course.
Copenhagen at least has changed
8
quite a
years
bit
ago,
in
they
8
probably
years.
didn't have a big IT shortage, and now they realize the country just probably doesn't have enough people that are skilled in IT.
Yeah, maybe.
And also, I think it's a pretty technologically advanced city and
Yes,
country.
yeah, it is.
As far as like, you have some startups here, you have a culture of like actually some software development coming out of here, and interesting stuff going on. And I think the country also realizes that that's where the economic stuff is moving towards, right? It's less about making, I don't know, shit out of iron, and more about like making
Shit out of bits.
well, yeah. It is. I mean, it is. It's like a digital economy. So I think that they're
I have seen Copenhagen referred as one of the best places to start a
startup
business.
cities, yeah. Except for the fucking taxes and the cost, but
I think they have some
they have some benefits.
benefits.
Yeah. Let's keep going on this list of this guy that thinks he's gonna miss the music scene. He
music
says
scene, that's
it's
interesting.
only February, and I'm already bummed that he'll miss he's already bummed he's gonna miss the summer's Roskilde Festival after attending for 6 consecutive years. I've also had to unfollow all the Copenhagen music venues on Facebook because I keep seeing upcoming concerts that I can't attend. He says the Danish capital is a great music city. Just ask all the Swedes who regularly cross the bridge for shows. And I've been able to check act after act off of my must-see list and discover all kind of new favorites.
Well, that might be true, but I think that's part of that is because it comes from Iowa.
Yeah.
You know, because if you live in a capital city in Europe, I think the scene, maybe it won't be as good as here. I do not know that. But I mean, you're going to get a lot of shit.
You might be onto something there. I think another thing is that, like, we were in Houston, and of course, basically every major act from, you know, Beyonce and whatever, you know, all the popular fucking stars are going to come through Houston, and they're going to come through Dallas, and they're going to come through every major city in the U.S., basically.
Yeah.
And you're right. They're probably not going to make too many stops in Iowa or Nebraska or whatever. But generally speaking, I think also that because Copenhagen is smaller and because of its kind of like more, I don't know, because of the size, and also because when people go out and drink here, they like really have a good time. And when people get drunk here, they don't tend to get too much of like too violent. They just tend to get kind of fun and like actually talkative, with the exception of losing an eye on. But what I'm kind of getting at is like, again, this is that overused hygge and cozy shit. But like when you go to a music venue here, I feel like I have a better time at the venue itself because of the people there with me enjoying it, and just kind of the Danish concept of like when you're partying, like you're really partying, and like when you're listening to music and dancing, like people are just having a really fucking good time. And of course that happens at other music venues, but I felt like when I was in Houston, like we went to see some shows and shit, and just the overall vibe of the crowd and the way the event goes, like you have more fun. If it's held here versus there, you'll have more fun here. And of course, we've also been blessed with going to some pretty cool venues, like Pumpehusel is a great venue. We saw Cunning Linguists there. Were you there that night?
No, I was not.
It was a sick show. We
But
were
I've
so
seen 13th
close.
floor elevators.
Yeah, we were so close. I mean, the guy actually came out in the crowd, and I mean, holy shit, man! The show was amazing. The venue is great. Like the actual premises are good. The way that it's all structured and laid out. The sound system's great. And then like Scannable, when we go there, that's a larger kind of stage. But just the overall organization of the place and the sound system there, and, you know, the facilities, they have enough toilets, and yeah, there's wood chips on the trail for the most part, so it doesn't get too muddy. And just like simple things like that make a big difference. And I feel like they do a really good job of it here. The only downside is that it's really expensive.
There's distortion as well.
Yeah, I haven't been to Roskilde and Distortion,
I haven't been to
unfortunately.
Roskilde yet, but I love Distortion. It's, along with Smugfest, I think those two are my favorite events of the year.
But I think he's got a point. It's a pretty good music city because if you live here, you can, since it's a major European city, you are going to get big acts coming through. And when they do come through, chances are if they're not just mega big, you have a real opportunity to go see them because the tickets, okay, something like Metallica, maybe it sells out right away.
Yeah, and
But
Dylan is coming here. He has 2 dates, and just
yeah,
because I didn't buy the tickets within the first 4 hours, I can't go see him. No.
right. But if you didn't buy the tickets in the first 2 minutes in the US, they'd be gone. You know, like
Well, I said 4 hours. It might have been
4 minutes. Okay.
well, maybe not four. I don't know,
Well,
but yeah, it might have been much less
anyways,
than that.
but like when some group like Cunning Linguists comes here,
Yeah,
I mean, like for me to get an
it's not
opportunity
sold
to see-
out when Conley Lewis comes here.
No, that's right. It's not sold out. So we were able to get some tickets, and they weren't too expensive. And you know, then we were up. I even got to talk to some of the artists after the show too. It's
Okay,
pretty
that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, anyways, I agree. It's got a pretty good music scene here.
It does. It does.
And a nice mix of different types. If you want to see, you know, jazz, classical, orchestral, some hip hop, some electronic shit. I mean, they've got a little bit of everything, and rock for everybody.
Yeah, I feel that it's well. I don't know if it's well distributed, but at least there is a bit of everything.
There's variety, and I mean, I don't think there's any elitism like, oh, this kind of music is trash. I mean, other than the fact that you're probably not going to hear much country western over here.
Yeah, I guess not.
An efficient and technically advanced society.
Yeah, we kind of talked a bit about that. haven't we?
Yeah, Danes love to complain about the rail operator DSB, and I certainly have joined in the chorus myself. But overall, things in Denmark, including public transport, are quite efficient. From the multitude of ways to pay for your goods, almost none of which include something as old-fashioned as cash or checks,
Except
to a personal ID
Post
number
North.
that is used for pretty much everything. I've grown used to the things just working like they're supposed to.
Yeah,
I thought,
except Post North.
yeah, but I remember when I first found out about the NIM ID thing, I was astounded. I was like, this makes so much sense.
Yeah,
You have like a single card and it's two-factor, and you use this login for everything. And to be honest, it makes a lot of things a lot easier.
it does.
It does also give a single point of failure and a single target
Well, you still
for
have a
somebody
password
to attack.
besides that.
Yeah, but you can do the certificate-based one instead. That's cool that they even allow that option, that you can download the actual
Yeah, I never
private key
tried
and
it.
use the
Yeah.
private key.
Yeah, I never tried that.
That's pretty cool.
But the only thing I'm not crazy about NemID is that, well, I don't carry mine with me all the time.
I do. I put it in my wallet, the card.
So sometimes I might want to use a site that requires NemID authentication, and I can't. It hasn't really happened, and of course, if it had happened enough times, I'd probably start carrying it with me.
Yeah.
But
Well, there's two levels of the NIMID auth as well. There's the username and password auth. Like when I log into my, and not everybody uses it this way, but when I log into my bank, I can log in with the username and password and check my balance and do some basic things.
yeah, me too.
And then if I want to transfer money or do anything important, then I have to log in again and use my NIMID second factor.
Yeah, it's the
So
same for
I
me.
think if more sites implemented that kind of tiered scheme, and it's probably on them as well to do that, not on NIMID, because I think they provide both API hooks or whatever, where it's like you can log in, and at this point you've only authed with password only, and so now if you want to do something important, you need to auth with two-factor. But I mean, that aside, they also provide a little two-factor, like a hardware key device that you can get. According to some people, they're very fragile and they break easily and don't work very well. Don't you think they'll make an app for the smartphone soon, or just use something like the Google TOTP, like the one-time rotation thing, like the two-factor you have on Google Authenticator?
Have you heard anything about that, or just kind of hoping?
No. Well, I'm just surmising and hoping. I mean, doesn't pretty much everybody have a smartphone anyway? And if they don't, then they could get the physical card, or as a backup, they could get the card. But I think it would probably save them a lot of paper of sending out cards, so it would save them money. And to be honest, most people are going to be logging in from their phone anyway nowadays, or a tablet. Not everybody's using a computer all the time anymore.
Yeah, but then, would an app be any better than just receiving a text message with a two-factor authentication code? Kind of like Google does that, right? Or GitHub does that.
A few of them do it, but they also provide you the option to use like a separate, like a Google Authenticator, like a time-based token where you've already shared a pre-shared thing in advance, and as long as your time is both synced, then you know that a certain number will appear at a certain time. So that doesn't even require you to necessarily be online or capable of receiving a text. So yeah, I mean, maybe it's not quite as different as receiving a text, but I think it's more convenient to just have an app or like maybe not even their own app. Maybe just allow it to use the standard that's already been laid out and used by everybody. It's I forget the schema that's used, but if you use Google Authenticator, you can load all your two-factor things in there.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
It's a small
It's a good
change, but
idea.
anyways, I think NIM ID is great. I think he's right. Generally, things just work here. Besides
Yeah,
Post Denmark,
yeah, yeah. Post Denmark is really
even
even
the,
the trains and stuff like that.
they're fine.
I think they're fine. I think the
100%.
public transportation is not, it's not cheap,
No, it's not cheap, but it works.
I don't have any issues with it. And of course, maybe I'm spoiled because I don't use it as often as a lot of other people do.
I mean, I took a survey the other day. I was on the metro, and the guy came around and asked me if I would take a survey. And usually I tell him no, I don't have time because
Oh,
I'm just.
I like doing. I used to do that in the metro.
But I did it. The guy.
Because I like the metro.
The guy seemed like a. He seemed like a guy that could be your grandfather. You know, he seemed like a nice enough guy, and I just.
Yeah.
I don't know if he had a quota or what, but I just wanted to help him out if he needed. And so he asked me nicely, and I said, yeah, no problem. And
Those kind of surveys, I like to take them.
And the surveys were a bunch of different questions about like the cleanliness and the timeliness of the train and how well they give you information about keeping you updated, which I think they do give you pretty good info. Like you'll be on the platform and it's like, hey, there's currently a train stopped at DR Buton and it's due to a signal problem or it's due to one of the doors not closing. Like they don't keep you in the dark. They tell you right away what the problem is, and then they tell you, hey, we're expecting it should be fixed in the next few minutes or 5 minutes or whatever. And then if there's an update and it's going to take 8, then they tell you that as well. And I mean, it's quite nice. And they salt the roads. They probably oversalt the roads, but I mean, as soon as it's snowing or if it's going to snow at all,
there's going to be salt.
like there's salt on the road, and so that's not normally a problem. The bike lanes are always cleared very quickly. Probably even with more priority than for the cars. And yeah, it seems like ambulances and just like fire and all that. I mean, I've never really had a problem where I needed one, but I mean, it seems like they're always there to help, you know, and so that's good. And the police kind of stay out of the way in a sense, like you don't feel like you're a policed society, but you know if something's going wrong or if you need help, like you feel like a policeman can be there to help you, you know?
Yeah. Well, I live right next to their headquarters. But
Sure.
yeah.
But what I'm saying is like you're not nervous around the police. Like they're always like out there looking for something to do. But at the same time, you know that they're around. And if something's bad is happening, like they're going to be there right away.
Yeah. Well, yesterday I had a bit of an encounter with the police because there was a raid in Christiania.
Yeah.
Right at the time that I went there.
There was another raid? Like a legit raid?
Yeah. Yeah. There was like policemen running around and stuff like that.
Holy
and
shit.
blocking certain areas because I guess they were trying to trap people, you know? So they were basically waiting in one specific street.
Yeah.
Because my guess is that they were kind of pushing them towards that street.
So you guys were you in Christiania at the time it happened?
Yeah, that was right next to the Moonfisher.
Okay, so they just came into the Moonfisher?
No.
Oh, they came into
basically
like
what
Pusher Street
happened
or
is
what?
I went into Christiania, and as soon as I get to Pusher Street, for some reason I decide to make a left because I'm going to the Moonfisher. So I just make a left, you know, and apparently the police was there already at Pusher Street, running around and stuff like that. I only noticed them when I got closer to the Moonfisher because then they were blocking that side road right next to it, like, you know, before you go up the ramp.
Yeah.
So
like when you turn left at that the vegetarian restaurant or the vegan restaurant.
Yes.
So they're blocking that part where they normally have barrels in the winter and
yeah.
shit.
Well, they're blocking. They just have like 4 or 5 people blocking the road, and I pass in front of them like 3 meters from them.
Did they say anything to you?
No. I was just they didn't care about me. Yeah, I just passed 3 meters in front of them.
Yeah,
and that's all. And there was some random guy going, "Fuckers!"
Yeah,
but
did they have anybody arrested or like anybody?
Possibly. I didn't stay there to see what was happening.
And you didn't see like they were like closing stalls down or what? Probably.
I didn't
probably
see.
everybody
I didn't walk around on Pusher. I didn't go to Pusher Street. But they don't have stalls anymore. They just have a few crates with a wooden table. That's all. Like there's no stalls.
There were still people smoking weed around, right? Or no?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay,
I'm just saying that there's no like roofs.
Yeah.
So there's no there's nothing with the roof. Yeah, it's just a bunch of crates on top of each
People
other.
People like set a little table out on it, and that's it.
Exactly.
Okay. Complaining about the weather. That's one thing that he'll miss.
He's gonna miss it.
Mm-hmm. Can he say, okay, let's see. Can I truly say that I'll miss the Danish weather?
No.
But complaining about the weather is something of a national sport. And I got
So true.
and I got quite good at it over the years. I've also found that I appreciate those perfect summer days more when they're rare than I do when long sunny and warm stretches are just the norm.
That is true.
Okay, you got me. I needed an extra item to get the nice round number of 10. I won't miss the Danish weather at all.
No,
Yeah.
but he has a point there.
About-
Complaining about the weather, it's really just.
Yeah.
I feel it's almost part of my identity now.
That's one of my favorite phrases to say in Danish, actually, is like, if I'm speaking to a Dane and
Yeah.
we're actually speaking in Danish
Yeah.
and they're asking me, like, how do I like Denmark and stuff, I'm telling them I love it, but I hate the shit weather.
Yeah.
Like, lortevejr.
Yeah.
It's like, jeg kan ikke fordrage lortevejr. Like, I detest the shit weather.
Yeah.
But it is a bit of a national sport, complaining about the weather. And to be honest, it's always bad. So like you can never really say, except the few days that it's good. Then you're like, oh, how about this weather?
But I have also noticed that I have come to appreciate good weather so much more.
Yes.
Like when the weather is nice,
Yes.
I really, really, really
Yes.
don't take it for granted.
No, you go out and you enjoy it. In the summer,
I might not enjoy it as much as I should.
No, but in the summer when it's nice and it's light until like 11 o'clock at night,
It's brilliant.
I want to be out there hanging out on a patio, drinking some beers,
Eating some fläskesteg.
eating fläskesteg, hanging out with my friends, playing some dominoes or some backgammon.
Some dominoes.
In the sun with the sunglasses on, you got to do it,
with
man.
the JBL.
With the JBL, the speakers blasting.
There was yesterday someone with the JBL at Moonfisher.
I think people have caught on. That JBL is a good speaker.
And they came to them and like, you can't play that shit here.
Where?
Moonfisher, outside.
Oh, outside? They said you couldn't play it?
No, you can't.
How loud did they have it?
It doesn't matter. They said, we're going to put it lower. Like, no, you can't do it. And basically the guys left.
Wow. Oh, I mean, in a way, because then if one person does it, then the other group has theirs on, and then you're sitting out there in the patio, and you got 5 people's fucking speaker on, and everybody's listening to some different shit that they like, and then when
and the other people might
and
not
then the
like
other
it.
person they don't like it and they like their music, they turn theirs louder, and then you have some fucking loudness.
Or they just go somewhere else and maybe they'll lose clients. I don't know. I don't know exactly the reason.
Yeah, honestly, I don't think it's a terrible idea. I mean, of course, I think that my taste in music is great, and so everybody
and they were
should
playing
like
some
it.
psytrance.
They were playing some psytrance.
Yeah, it was really nice.
And it was good.
It was nice.
Yeah, well, anyways, I understand that position. If they asked us to and we wanted to hang out there, I wouldn't have a problem turning it off. At the same time, if we really wanted to listen to the music, I also wouldn't have a problem just saying, you know what, that's fair, I'll just go somewhere else. So, I mean, it's not like you're forced to go to the Moonfisher.
No, yeah, you just go like 15
you,
meters to the side and
you shouldn't feel
good to go.
entitled to be able to play your music out there.
Well, it's Christian.
Well, to be true, but it's also a little bit of a private park.
But no,
there
at the
inside
Moonfisher,
inside.
I understand.
Yeah,
I think it's fair.
Was it out in the actual patios with the seating?
Yes.
Or was
yes,
it out
yes,
in the,
yes.
the green area out in the area where
in the patio with the seating?
Don't you think if you were out there sitting on the grass in the summer and you had it pretty low, as long as people weren't complaining, they wouldn't bother you?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe there it's okay.
Yeah, I think it's also
It
like
might be okay
it's
there.
probably a little bit up to the person. Like if you have it too loud and it's a little bit obnoxious, then they're gonna say something. Okay. A love-hate relationship with the Danish language. This
Sure.
guy has a Danish wife and 2 half-Danish kids, so leaving Denmark doesn't mean that I'll escape the language that I've struggled to learn, but it does mean I will obviously use it much less than I do now and likely forget much of what I've learned.
Yeah.
That's a shame. Danish is a damn hard language, but it has some true gems that work better than their English equivalents, if one even exists.
Yeah, I agree. I've come to like the language, but there's definitely a certain barrier that I can never really fully love it because I will never be able to fully make those weird sounds and
Yeah, there's a lot of difficult sounds if you didn't grow up using them. It's just almost a core concept, like the alphabet or the sounds that a certain vowel makes or a consonant makes. Like if you speak like a Spanish type language or whatever. You can tell. Actually, those are the people that have the hardest time in my class. Is people who come from Spanish speaking countries.
Hmm.
They always have the hardest time, even harder than English speaking countries, which I think we have it pretty bad
Oh,
as
we
well.
had a few Asian guys, like
Oh
Koreans and
yeah,
Chinese, and they were
yeah,
terrible.
yeah. And it's
They were
not that they
terrible.
don't try, and they're not like. It's just
No, it's
because
just too
you don't
different.
understand how to make the
It's just
exact
too
sound.
different. It's too different from whatever sounds people are used to make.
They
It's the
they
same with me.
they even have a big chart of how your mouth and your tongue should be positioned in your mouth when you make like an
Yeah,
sound or like
I
a.
never had that. I never seen
Oh
that.
yeah, yeah. It's actually pretty. It was actually helpful at first. I thought this is so stupid because when we first started Danish, they just go around the class and they're like, "Okay, I want you to make an sound," and it's like, "No, no, 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 try again." And we just kept doing it, and everybody's kind of laughing, and it's silly. But then you realize, like a year later, holy shit, you need to be able to make those sounds.
Yeah, that helped.
Um, and I think mine is coming along decently. Like I'm not an expert or anything like that, but now I can actually hold a conversation at least where I can tell you like more than
Yeah,
just
it's a
my
crappy weather.
well, yeah, I mean I can tell you more than just like where I come from and what I do and where I live. Like
Yeah,
I can tell
yeah.
you, hey, like I don't really like the weather today because it blows a lot and it's cold and it's pissing rain. And,
Mhm.
like those kind of things seem very simple, but when you're able to say them in another language in a fairly fluid way where somebody almost thinks, wow, they're like this guy speaks perfectly fine, it feels good. I think the Danish language when I first got here, it sounded to me of like a bit of an ugly sounding language.
It still is.
And that will never fully change.
No.
But as I've learned it more, I realize now that there's a lot more subtlety to the language. And there are some aspects of beauty kind of in it.
Yeah,
You know
I
what I
like
mean?
it.
Like there's some subtlety and some interesting parts of it. And if you ever hear like an older person that speaks more like
Slower,
classic
yeah.
Danish, slower and more clearly,
Hmm.
I really like the way that sounds. Like and for me, I can understand it a lot better because they're actually separating some of the words and they're saying like yeah instead of yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like all one long sound. And so there's a lot of kind of things that have done in Copenhagen that just in a way, I guess, quote, optimize the language, but it doesn't really make the language prettier or better. It just makes it easier to speak fast.
Hmm.
So, and I'm not a big fan of those things, but
Yeah, most of the things that I don't like about the Danish language have to do with the verbalization of the language. So actually speaking it.
because the written is not the same as the spoken.
No, it's two different languages.
Entirely.
It's two different languages,
Yeah.
and but I do. I mean, I like languages in general, so I'm very happy that I actually learned it,
Yeah.
and I think it has given me some insight. It's like
Into the
I learned-
culture more.
well, maybe a little bit into the culture, but I feel that I've learned more than just learning the language. I think from learning the language, I've learned a bit more. I don't know if I can exactly exemplify what, but I feel that I've learned more than just learning Danish by learning the language.
Yeah, I agree.
And I do love the fact that like German, they have a lot of I think it's called agglutination, where they basically just put the words together into a new word.
Yeah.
I like that. I like those long words that are just like three words together.
Yeah. I guess you do it in English too, right?
But I don't think you do it to the same extent as you do here.
Maybe
and,
not
and
quite.
here they don't do it to the same extent as
As
they
in
do
Germany.
In Germany.
Yeah, Germany is like the king of that.
Yeah.
Okay. A society that's so well functioning that people have to go looking for problems.
Who goes looking for problems?
The Danes are generally happy and proud people, and they have good reason to be. There was a 2015 headline in the left-leaning Politiken newspaper, which has been my paper of choice during my time here, that has really stuck with me. Hvorfor skal det altid være sundt for nogen i politikens spalter? Why is it always a shame for someone in Politiken's columns, it asks. Basically, the author argues that Danes are so well off that they constantly create problems that aren't there. After 7 years here, I agree. Of course, Denmark, like any country, has its issues, but life here is generally so good that some of the things people find to complain about are rather petty.
Yeah, I agree with
That,
that. Yeah.
frankly, strikes me as a pretty good indicator that Danes have this whole life thing pretty much figured out or down. After all of those world's happiest people designations have to count for something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see that. I don't know if
Yeah.
I can think of any example off the top of my head.
Well,
but I can see that.
I mean, I guess some people would argue that the thing about the mail, like you get your package the day after. But anyways, that one's annoying. It
Yeah.
is really annoying. Sometimes the train is annoying, but right. I mean, you don't have so many problems. So you end up complaining around. Some of the complaints you make would seem really ridiculous in comparison if you went to a country like, like some war-stricken country. You're over here complaining about getting your package a day late, and they
Yeah,
can't get any food.
It's true. Yeah.
But it really is. I mean, the only things I can really complain about is Post Nord and the weather. And maybe the taxes, but I choose to do it anyway because I think it's worth it.
Mm-hmm.
So in that sense, I don't necessarily, of course, I complain about the taxes because I'd like to pay less, but I'll also happily pay it.
I happily pay the taxes.
I don't
have an issue with
I don't
the
really
taxes.
want them to get higher because I mean, there's a point at which I think it's a little ridiculous, but I mean, I guess if it was well justified and they needed to spend the money for something, then I'd just make the decision to stay or go, but I'd probably stay anyway. And then delivering the news in English. Before he brought The Local to Denmark in 2014, he spent around 3.5 years as a news editor of a competing English language publication during the 6+ years of covering Danish news.
Which one? Does he mention which one?
No, he said he's heard from countless readers who've expressed their thanks for helping them understand their new home, and I've been featured by media around the world who were interested in my insight into what was happening in Denmark. Denmark has an enormous inferiority complex, but it shouldn't. There's great interest out there in what goes on in this small but important and fascinating country. I truly enjoyed doing my part over the years to help get these stories out there, the good, the bad, and the ugly. He's been the editor of The Local Denmark since the site launched in June 2014 and also operated The Local Norway since November 2015. He's moving to upstate New York, and if all goes according to plan, will return to Copenhagen in 2019.
All right, good for him. I think that's a good way to
Huh.
end the article.
Yeah.
It's maybe a good way to end the podcast.
Yeah, I think so.
10 things
That you'll miss most. Well, okay, before we end
I
it, though,
love Copenhagen. I'm very glad to have gone through that list.
I do too.
I love this
Before we end
city.
it, though, I do have to, our final note here.
Please let me know for
He mentions here Denmark has an enormous inferiority complex, but it shouldn't. Do you feel that's kind of true? Because I also feel this way a little bit, because when I talk to Danes and stuff, they seem to have this...
I think it's because they're such a small country.
Yeah, but they seem to have this kind of thing where they're like, they tell me about something and I'm like, oh, this is great here. And they're like, oh, yeah, but it's not like it is in the U.S. or something. Like, I don't know if it's because I'm American and because American media is so like dominant as far as like shows.
It's very
and
culturally dominant.
It's just culturally dominant. And I think there was some quote, I don't remember what it was about, but it was talking about like how one of the wars was won with like blue jeans and like, cassette tapes or whatever, as opposed to rifles and stuff, because, just the war of the minds and of culture. But I think that in a way it's a little true. Like I think Denmark in a way doesn't give themselves enough credit, but it also could be something to do with the whole concept of like janteluen.
Yeah, I think it's related to Jantelo. It's related to the size of the country.
Mm-hmm.
Probably related to the fact that, this is me extrapolating now, but maybe the fact that they speak their own language, and it's a language that's spoken by only 6 million people all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
So that probably just makes it feel kind of more isolated.
Yeah.
And yeah, you just have this feeling of smallness because the whole country has fewer people than Manhattan,
Right.
you know?
Right.
So or than London. So things like that.
Anyways, Denmark, you shouldn't have an inferiority complex. You're beautiful. I love you.
And you do see a lot of Danes, like successful Danes and Danish companies all over the world.
You really do.
Especially if you come from a country like Portugal. Because for you, it might be something that you come from the States, so your country is just dominant all over the world. But I come from Portugal, which is a country that is small. Still, it's bigger than Denmark. I mean, it's poorer, but it's bigger than Denmark. And you don't really see anything about Portugal or Portuguese people except for football players.
Right.
But here in Denmark, a smaller country,
You see so
a
many
lot of so
things.
many successful people and so many
Olympics, business, software
everything,
developers,
exactly.
all different
all over
walks
the
of
world,
life. Yeah.
all over the Skype was Danish.
Yeah.
Just so many things.
I wish it stayed Danish. Maybe it wouldn't be so shit. It's really bad now. The sound quality is so terrible. But that's a story for another day. So we hope you've enjoyed today's podcast. We should be on for next week as well, right?
Yeah, let's certainly hope so.
So we'll leave it there and catch you guys next time.
Ta-ta for now.